Chapter 2040 Nemesis. Chapter 2040, Nemesis. It is not surprising that such a scene will appear. Although the wooden mandrill avatar in front of him has been promoted to the level of the first level of Daoyuan because he swallowed Han Leng's flesh and blood essence, the mother body of the monster insect can display the strength of the second level of Daoyuan at this moment. Qingyan Jinglei Jackal is not weak, even though the level of cultivation is the same as Mudrill's avatar, but it can control the power of fire. It is the nemesis of Mudrill. Cooperating with Yongkai, it would be a strange thing if he couldn't suppress the Mudrill avatar. One man and two blood beasts cooperated with each other to chop off the numerous vines of the wooden mandrill to pieces, and the cut vines fell to the ground, and green liquid flowed from the cuts. The vines are constantly wriggling like maggots, like living things. But after the green liquid drained, the vines all shriveled up, instantly turning into dead wood, and turned into dust when the wind blew. The wooden mandrill roared again and again, urging its own power more and more angrily. Those vines were cut off one by one and then grew again, and for a while, there was a posture of incessant cutting. Seeing this, Yongkai couldn't help but look a little awe-inspiring. He always felt that this Mudrill avatar was a bit different from what he had dealt with before, and that it was indeed too difficult to deal with. This made him always vigilant, wrapped in the sword energy of fire, and did not give Mudrill a chance to deceive himself. After fighting for a cup of tea, although it seemed that Yongkai and the two blood beasts had the upper hand in the battle, they were unable to give the wooden mandrill a fatal attack and fell into a stalemate. And at this moment, the Qingyan Jinglei Jackal, who had been urging the fire element to attack the wooden mandrill, seemed to be unable to turn around his power, and the fireball ejected from his mouth paused for a moment. Chi 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 chi. There was a strange sound, and a series of roots suddenly sprang out from the ground below, immediately entangled Qingyan Jinglei Jackal. Those roots were astonishingly what the wooden mandrill had dug into the soil before. Qingyan Jinglei let out a whimper and struggled hard, but still couldn't get rid of the shackles of the roots. A vine took the opportunity to stab, and with a pop, it directly pierced into Qingyan Jinglei Jackal's body. The next moment, the gulping sound that made Yang's head tingle rang out again, and the vine began to devour it. The flesh and blood essence of Qingyan Shocking Thunder Jackal. Qingyan Jinglei Jackal itself is an 11th order monster, with a Daoyuan first level cultivation base. After being killed by Yongkai and condensed into a blood beast, the essence of flesh and blood has not been lost, but it has become stronger because of the nourishment of the golden blood thread. The wooden mandrill swallowed it like this, and the injuries it had suffered before were healed in a short time, and the distorted facial features on the tree trunk showed a hint of surprise and joy at this moment. When Yongkai saw it, his heart skipped a beat, and without even thinking about it, his mind suddenly moved, and he shouted loudly, "Back!" Accompanied by his shout, the Qingyan Jinglei Jackal entangled by the roots shook, and then turned into a golden blood thread, and shot back towards Yongkai leisurely. After taking this golden blood thread back into his body, Yongkai felt it silently. His complexion became ugly. In just such a short while, the power of qi and blood contained in this golden blood thread disappeared for a full third one. In other words, 1/3 of Qingyan Jinglei Jackal's vitality was swallowed up. If he wanted to make up for it, Yongkai would have to supplement it with his own golden blood. On the other side, the wooden mandrill suddenly went berserk. It seemed that because it failed to swallow all the Qingyan Jinglei Jackals, it became very angry. It ignored Yongkai, but turned its attention to the mother body of the monster worm. Swallowing Qingyan Jinglei Jackal just now gave it a huge benefit, and now it is natural to want to repeat the old trick. At the feet of the monster worm's mother body, the ground split open, and countless roots flew over like spirit snakes, trying to entangle the monster worm's mother body. But how could the demon worm mother body make it easy to get it? The two purple and green swords swayed with two-colored light, and the sharp sword energy flew in all directions like arrows. The power of icy law lingered around its body, and the speed of those roots would be greatly reduced as soon as they broke in. Not only it failed to cause any harm to the mother body of the demon worm, but instead suffered a lot of damage to itself. Seeing this scene, Yang was happy. If the two blood beasts couldn't be used in such a battle, then I'm afraid it's really troublesome this time. Now it seems that the performance of the monster worm mother is much better than he expected. After all, it is a fusion of sword spirit psychics and blood beasts, and the combat power it can display is not comparable to that of Qingyan Jinglei Jackal. Yongkai was about to rush up again, and when he joined forces with the monster worms to besiege the wooden mandrill, he suddenly felt a movement in his heart and sensed an anxious call. That call came from the sealed Luyan. Although Luyan was sealed in the round bowl, she seemed to have sensed the battle outside, so she activated the imprint Yang Kai left in her divine sense in the early years. Stunned for a moment, Yang Kai patted his forehead, cursing himself a bit stupid. I only wanted to join hands with the two blood beasts, but never thought of the existence of Lu Yan. Lu Yan is a pure fire weapon spirit. The fighting power displayed by the two blood beasts is stronger. As long as you get out Lu Yan first, are you still afraid of a mere wooden mandrill? Thinking of this, Yang Kai's gaze immediately aimed at Han Lang's corpse on the left side of Muji's body. In his heart, he gave a command to the monster worm mother, and while the monster worm mother was fighting with the wooden mandrill, Yang Kai swayed and came directly in front of Han Lang's corpse, reaching down to grab it, and scooped up all the two space rings in his hand up. Of these two space rings, one belongs to Han Lang himself, and the other belongs to Ning Yuancheng, and the round bowl that seals Lu Yan is stored in the latter space ring. After succeeding, Yang Kai will return immediately. But at this moment, the wooden mandrill seemed to be aware of Yang Kai's small movements, and at the same time as countless vines were drawn towards this side, a thin light shot out from its body, which disappeared in a flash. Yang Kai was startled, and quickly blocked the attacks of those vines, and after blocking them, he backed away with a cloudy expression. He clearly saw a faint ray of light emanating from the wooden mandrill's body just now, but he didn't see where it went. His divine sense quickly scanned his body, but he didn't notice anything abnormal, which made his face look ugly. After careful inspection again, there was still nothing found. Yang Kai gritted his teeth and temporarily ignored it, but took out the round bowl that sealed Lu Yan from the space ring in Ningyuan City. Spiritual mind was poured into the round bowl, and Yang Kai immediately felt the existence of Lu Yan. Master, Lu Yan's call came. It's good to see you again, I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. Yang Kai chuckled and said, of course I won't ignore you, now is not the time to reminisce about the past, I will find a way to untie this seal first, there is a big enemy that needs you to deal with. Okay. After Lu Yan responded, there was no movement. Yang Kai floated to the distance and carefully checked the restriction of the round bowl. This round bowl is a special sealing secret treasure. It is not very valuable in itself. It is mainly used to seal energy bodies such as Lu Yan. People can easily untie the restriction from the outside. The power of Yang Kai's spiritual consciousness is not comparable to that of ordinary Void King realm, so it only took a cup of tea to have a clue. Spiritual thoughts poured into the round bowl, lifting the restraining power layer by layer. After the seal was completely broken, Lu Yan's joyful voice came from the round bowl immediately, it's done. After the words fell, accompanied by a high-pitched cry, Lu Yan turned into a flame and shot out from the round bowl. Phew! With a sound, the temperature in the air suddenly increased. Lu Yan spread his wings, and his huge body almost covered half of the sky. His eyes that were burning like flames swept downwards, and then fixed on the mudrill who was fighting with the demon worm mother. Immediately, she screamed, and she rushed downward like a meteorite falling from the sky. At this moment, the mudrill is fighting fiercely with the demon worm mother. Although the cultivation level of the two sides is a little lower, and even the demon worm mother has mastered the power of the ice-cold law, it can still barely fight the wooden mandrill. It's just a tie, without Yang Kai's restraint, it can't even gain the slightest advantage. It can be seen how powerful the wooden mandrill is. And when Lu Yan was wrapped in a ball of flames and came down from the air strike, the distorted facial features on the trunk of the wooden mandrill finally showed a look of fear and horror, which was the same when it faced Yang Kai and the two blood beasts. Never had. Countless vines shot towards Lu Yan with a single flick from the ground. Each vine was like a javelin with full strength, and its power was terrifying. But Lu Yan didn't care about it, opened his mouth, and a crimson pillar of fire spewed out from his mouth, and there were even purple lightning bouncing in that pillar of fire. All the attacking vines were reduced to ashes under this scorching power, and occasionally a few were not burned, and they also passed through Lu Yan's body directly, but did not cause any damage to her. Lu Yan is originally an energy body, without substance, how could he be hurt by such an attack? It can be said that she is the real nemesis of the wooden mandrill. Any ability of the wooden mandrill is ineffective against her, but she must restrain it in terms of attributes. Not only that, but the power of thunder and lightning mastered by Lu Yan was transmitted to the wooden mandrill through those vines, making it tremble on the ground, as if it had been shocked by electricity. Most of Lu Yan's flames are obtained by devouring the true essence of the sun. Her thunder and lightning power comes from a group of psychic dry sky thunderflames that were swallowed back then. Even if it can't compare with Lu Anfeng's black flame, it is not comparable to ordinary flames. How can the wooden mandrill resist it? After Luyan's flaming body passed over the wooden mandrill, more than half of the wooden mandrill's vines were burned, and the originally hideous and distorted facial features were now full of panicked expressions. It no longer dared to stay where it was, and with a sway of its body, all the roots that had been stuck in the ground were retracted. The short roots under the roots were as sharp as legs and feet, and turned around and ran away. It ran away unexpectedly. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2041 Wood Species. Chapter 2041 Wood Species. Yang Kai, who has been waiting for an opportunity, has been waiting for this moment. How can he let the wooden mandrill escape when he sees the opportunity? Under the blessing of the space secret technique, he came directly in front of the wooden mandrill, staring at it with cold eyes, opening and closing his hands. A huge moon blade leisurely formed. Just when Yang Kai was about to release the moon blade to give Mu Mandrill a final blow, Mu Mandrill screamed, and with this scream, Yang Kai suddenly felt a tingling pain in his arm, and his wrist trembled. The moon blade shot out like this. There was a lot of scoffing. Even though the huge moon blade was condensed by space power, it was not the nemesis of Mu Mandrill, and it was still powerful at the moment. Although Yang Kai lost his aim at the last moment and failed to hit the vital part of Mu Mandrill, it still directly cut its body. The incision is flat, and a dark green liquid flows out of it, which is as spectacular as a fountain. And Lu Yan took the opportunity to jump down, turning into flames, and enveloping the wooden mandrill. Not far away, the demon worm's body held a pair of purple and blue swords, and posed in a strange posture. On the two swords, light flashed together. As it turned around, a huge sword light flew out directly, piercing into Lu Yan. In the battle group with the wooden mandrill. In an instant, the sharp neighing of the wooden mandrill came out. At the same time, Yang Kai retreated several tens of feet with a pale face, tore off his clothes, stared at his right arm, and the next moment, he exclaimed, "Wood species." At this moment, on his right arm, there was something the size of a light blue rice grain embedded in the skin and flesh. With its agitation, the power of his blood seemed to be uncontrollable, rushing towards this thing, devoured madly by it. And with the infusion of qi and blood, this little thing actually showed signs of breaking out of its shell. Yang Kai immediately understood what it was. It was obviously the wood species of the wood mandrill, the faint light that flickered before. No wonder even the 6 great emperors could not completely eradicate Mudrill. Originally, the wood species was so hidden that he could not find it after careful inspection of his body twice before. I am afraid that the wood species will not be activated. It was also because of the activation of the wood species that Yang Kai's moonblade lost its aim. In Fengalan City, Yang Kai couldn't be more clear about the fate of those warriors parasitized by wood species. It only takes a short time for the warrior's flesh and blood to be swallowed up, thus transforming into a sanityless wooden mandrill avatar. Yang Kai didn't want to follow in the footsteps of those people. Seeing that this wood species was devouring more and more energy and blood, Yang Kai gritted his teeth, condensed a small space blade on his fingers, and then pinched the position of the wood species, accompanied by a muffled roar. That piece of flesh and blood was directly torn off by Yang Kai. In an instant, blood was dripping on his arm. And the mass of flesh and blood torn off by him, without his control, was devoured by the wood seed in a short period of time, and the wood seed also turned into a seedling at this moment. From the seedling on the ground, tiny vines shot out, wanting to invade Yang Kai again. Yang Kai snorted coldly, directly sacrificed the mysterious boundary orb, and with a flick of his body, entered the mysterious small boundary. In the space of mysterious small world, Yang Kai held the clone of the Mudrill seedling, and the flame suddenly burned in the palm of his hand, completely enveloping the Mudrill seedling. Accompanied by a sharp cry, the unformed wooden drill clone was burned to ashes. After doing all this, Yang Kai took out a healing pill from the space ring and swallowed it, sat cross-legged on the ground, and carefully inspected every inch of his flesh and blood with the help of the power of laws in mysterious small boundary. He was really afraid of that wood species. With the power of his spiritual sense, it is impossible to detect the hidden wood species, but it is different in mysterious Shaoji. He can use the laws of heaven and earth here. Such inspection is better than using his own spiritual sense to detect the hidden wood species. The exploration must be thorough countless times, and it can really save you from worries. After some investigation, Yang Kai finally confirmed that there was no other wood species on his body other than the previous wood species, so he felt relieved. And after recovering for such a period of time, The injury on Yang Kai's arm is almost intact, the golden blood in his body has a strong healing ability, and supplemented by his strong physique, such an injury is not worth mentioning at all. After heaving a sigh of relief, Yang Kai shook his body and left mysterious small world. Returning to the plain, Yang Kai looked around and found that the place was peaceful and there was no movement of fighting. Not far away, Lu Yan, who had already turned into a human form, tapped his feet, and lightly jumped to Yang Kai's side. A smile finally appeared on his perennially glamorous pretty face, and he called out, "Master." Yang Kai nodded, glanced at the ashes over there, and asked, "Killed?" Lu Yan nodded and said, "Kill it." While speaking, she turned her head to look at the mother body of the demon worm again, and said lightly, "Master's new helper is not bad, much stronger than me." Yang Kai glanced at her, seemed to have noticed something, smiled and said, "Although it is good, but it has a great growth limit, Daoyuan third layer is probably its peak. But you are different, you have your own mind, cultivate well, and you will be better than it in the future." "Yes, Master," Lu Yan replied with his head lowered, but the corner of his mouth raised a small arc uncontrollably. Yang Kai waved at the monster worm's mother body, and the monster worm's mother body immediately flew over and was taken back into mysterious Shaoji by him. Looking around, the wilderness is a mess. In this half-day's time, 2 Daoyuan second-layer experts and more than a dozen Void King-level warriors died here, which made Yang Kai feel a little embarrassed. Look to see if there is any space ring left. After Yang Kai gave an order, he searched together with Lu Yan. Not long after, Yang Kai had 7 or 8 more space rings in his hands. These space rings belonged to warriors from Feixiang Palace. Yang Kai didn't look carefully at what was stored inside. Not too little. The rings of Ning Yuancheng and Han Leng have long been collected by Yang Kai. As for Lu Yiji's ring, it is unknown whether it was destroyed during the war or where it went. Cannot help but feel a little regretful. After all, it is the ring of a Daoyuan second-layer strongman, so there must be many good things. "Master, how to deal with this thing?" Lu Yan looked at the building boat on the ground, with a curious light in her beautiful eyes, and asked while looking at it. She was separated from Yang Kai in the Starlight Passage, and after entering the Star Realm, she didn't have time to appreciate the many wonderful things of the lower Star Realm. She knew very little about this secret treasure of the building, only knowing that it was a flying secret treasure. Naturally it's put away. Yang Kai grinned, walked to the front of the building boat and turned around a few times, showing a satisfied expression. How fast this thing flies, Yang Kai has personally experienced it. Before he has been following behind this building boat, no matter how hard he tried, he could never catch up. In the ensuing battle, the protective cover of this building can even resist the attack of the Fanyu Jodian formation. Obviously the protection ability is extremely strong. This is definitely a source-level flying secret treasure. Yang Kai just lacks a flying secret treasure for transportation. How can he let go of such a good thing? Although it is owned by Feixiang Palace, if Yang Kai uses it in the future and someone with a heart sees it, it is very likely that he will be linked to the death of Ningyuan City, but as long as he is careful, it will be fine if he does not use it in front of outsiders. The building boat was too big, and Yang Kai couldn't sacrifice it to make it smaller for a while, so he could only expend a huge amount of spiritual power to put it into the mysterious boundary bead, and wait for it to be dealt with slowly in the future. "Let's go." Yang Kai greeted Lu Yan, and then returned to Fenggalan City. Now that Lu Yan's matter has been resolved, he can accompany Kong Saran to explore that cave without any worries. But at this moment, a gust of wind blew, and Yang Kai, who was about to turn around and leave, couldn't help but pause, looking suspiciously at a certain place. "What's wrong?" Lu Yan asked in surprise. Yang Kai didn't answer, but watched intently for a while, and suddenly his figure flickered, and he came to the place where the Mudrill Avatar was killed. Here, originally there were only the ashes of the Mudrill Avatar after being burned, but under the gust of wind blowing just now, there was a little light in the ashes, which caught Yang Kai's attention. Kneeling down, pushing away the ashes, Yang Kai immediately saw something. He stepped back abruptly, with a look of vigilance on his face, and a moon blade flew out when he almost let go. Lu Yan came slowly, stood beside him, swept her beautiful eyes towards that side, and after seeing the things in the ashes, said softly, "Seeds." She turned her head and glanced at Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded slightly at her. Lu Yan then walked forward, stretched out her hand to suck, and pinched the seed on her fingertips. This thing is indeed a seed, only the size of a grain of rice, and it is obviously what is left after the wooden mandrel was burned. To be able to survive in the flames of Luyan, this seed is naturally not a mortal thing. Obviously it is the wood species of the wood mandrill. And the reason why Yongkai has that vigilant performance is precisely because of this reason. He had suffered quite a bit just now, and even his own flesh and blood were taken away by him to avoid the crisis. Once bitten by a snake, it is natural to be afraid of well ropes for 10 years. It's just that the strange thing is that this wood species is very different from the wood species planted on Yongkai's arm before. It is not green, but gold and silver, divided into half, and the left half is golden. The right half is shining with silver light, which looks extremely weird. Is there any problem? Yongkai asked vigilantly. Luyan nodded and said, there is indeed a problem. There is still a little strange power of the soul in this kind of seed. It seems that it has not died yet. I knew it. Yongkai gritted his teeth for a while. If he hadn't jumped out of the way just now and used his fingers to get the wood seed, he might have been parasitized again, and this wood seed looks extraordinary at first glance, and it might not be a piece of flesh and blood. It's that simple to solve. Fortunately, he still has Luyan, which is the nemesis of the wooden mandrill, and he is not afraid of its strange ability. All right, this guy actually dares to trick me. Yongkai sneered and waved his hand. Follow me. While speaking, power enveloped Luyan and directly brought her into mysterious Shaoji. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2042 Coincidence. In mysterious small world, Yongkai sat cross-legged, his expression calm. And not far in front of him, the alchemy furnace Zixu cauldron is standing there. The cauldron cover is closed, but inside the cauldron there is a good show of extermination. From time to time, there was a bumping sound from inside the Zixu cauldron, as if something was struggling to hit the alchemy furnace, trying to escape from it. Every time at this time, Yongkai would inject a force into the Zixu cauldron to suppress the resistance. As time passed, the Zixu cauldron became extremely red, and the surrounding space was slightly distorted by the high temperature. And the movement in the cauldron became weaker and weaker. After a full day, Ding Nei finally calmed down, and at the same time, Yongkai was finally called by Luyan. With a wave of his hand, he opened the Zixu cauldron, and Luyan immediately turned into a flame, shot out from the cauldron, turned in front of him, and then transformed into a human form. Master! Luyan yelled, and then handed over a grain of gold and silver intersecting wood in his hand, and said, Master, you can rest assured, now I guarantee that it will never die again. Quote. Good work. Yongkai nodded in satisfaction, took the strange wood species, poured his spiritual thoughts into it, and found that, as Luyan said, there was a ray of spirit hidden in this wood species. The power has long since disappeared. That ray of spirit power is obviously owned by Mudrill. The spirit is immortal, and Mudrill is immortal. But after Yongkai threw it into the purple void cauldron and lived with Luyan for a day and a night, how could the remaining power of the spirit and soul be preserved? It has long been killed by the scorching heat. At this moment, the seed in Yongkai's hand is no longer the seed of the wood mandrill, but the seed of the wood mandrill's body before the psychic. Yongkai didn't know what the original body of the wooden mandrill was before the psychic. After all, he had never seen such a seed before. But since it can persist for a whole day and night without the slightest damage under the burning force of Luyan and himself, it is obviously not an ordinary thing. If this seed is planted, after tens of thousands of years, perhaps it will give birth to wisdom and become another wood mandrill, but it has nothing to do with the previous wood mandrill. What are you going to do with this thing? Luyan glanced at Yongkai and asked. I don't know, what do you think? Yongkai looked up at her. Luyan also shook his head. Master can figure it out, but I always feel that the two forces flowing in this seed have a lot of effect. Oh, what did you see? Yongkai asked in surprise. It's just a feeling. If you really want me to tell, I can't tell. Luyan smiled. Yongkai nodded lightly, holding the strange wood species and meditating for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he thought of a good idea. Afterwards, he flickered, and came directly to the medicine garden in mysterious Shaoji, and then found a corner, pushed aside a little soil, and planted the wood seeds in his hand. He has no idea what this wood species is or what it does, but if he can let it take root and grow, he may be able to figure it out. And in the whole world, is there any place more suitable for planting this kind of wood than the medicine garden in Shaoxuanji? In this medicine garden, countless heavy soils are buried below, and there are 5 earth vein beads to supply the spirit energy of heaven and earth. In this place, the growth time of wood species will be greatly shortened. In a few years, Yang Kai will be able to figure out what it is. What is it? After careful inspection again, Yang Kai clapped his hands and smiled in satisfaction. Before shaking his body, he came back to Lu Yan. The matter here has been dealt with. I want to return to Fenggalan City. You come with me, I have something to ask you. Yang Kai looked at Lu Yan and said. Okay. Lu Yan nodded, his figure flickered, turned into a flame, rushed into Yang Kai's body and disappeared. Only then did Yang Kai leave mysterious small world, identified the direction, and quickly headed towards the location of Fenggalan City. Somewhere thousands of miles away from Fenggalan City, the gate of Feixiong Palace is located. Surrounded by mountains, steaming clouds and mist, the gate of Feixiong Palace is majestic. And on one of the peaks in this group of mountains, an old man with a bare upper body and white hair and beard was sitting facing the east, with his legs crossed and his eyes closed. The auras seemed to have spirituality, turning into various birds and beasts, and disappeared into the deep mountains and old forests in the blink of an eye. Judging by his posture, he didn't know what mysterious skills he was practicing. At this moment, the old man suddenly opened his eyes, and the light in his eyes was almost solidified, which made people shudder. HMPH, the old man said, don't bother me if you have nothing to do, tell me, what's the matter this time? If it's an insignificant matter, be careful with your head. The old man said coldly without turning his head. A few tens of meters behind him, a middle-aged man in a soap robe heard the words, and immediately froze his body, with cold sweat oozing from his forehead. Broken. Judging from the words of the middle-aged man, the old man is obviously Ning Boyang, the owner of Feixiong Palace. Yuancheng's fate card is broken. Ning Boyang's expression suddenly turned cold when he heard this, and the temperature on the mountain also dropped sharply. Yes, the middle-aged man replied in a deep voice without daring to lift his head. HMPH, that bastard is indeed a short-lived ghost, if it breaks, it will break. Ning Boyang said lightly. Ah, the middle-aged man was taken aback, as if he didn't expect his son to die, and his attitude as an old man was so indifferent. Could it be that the young palace master is a bastard? The middle-aged man couldn't help but think wildly. Since Yuancheng is dead, then let Yuanshu be the young palace master. You can handle this matter, and you don't need to bother me. Ning Boyang ordered. How dare the middle-aged man be negligent? He quickly nodded and said, yes, I will follow the order of the palace master. Also, although Yuancheng is not a weapon, he is my son after all, the young master of Feixiong Palace. Someone dares to ride on the head of Feixiong Palace to shit and pee. This is outrageous, go and find out who it is, get off your hands and bring his head to me. Yes, the middle-aged man bowed again. You go. Ning Boyang waved his hand. The middle-aged man immediately backed away without saying a word. Star God Palace, the overlord of the southern star realm, a similar scene is also happening. In a secret room, a short old man was listening to the report of a beautiful woman in front of him. After listening to it, he frowned and said, the fate card of that little beast is really broken. If you go back to Master, junior brother Han's fate card is indeed broken. The beautiful woman said respectfully. This beast is as slippery as a loach. The old man couldn't catch his whereabouts with his own hands. How could he die? The old man snorted coldly, what a waste. Master, calm down, junior brother Han is dead now. No matter what the identity of the person who made the attack, it can be regarded as clearing the door for Master. The beautiful woman comforted. Clean up the house. The old man snorted, why do I need other people to intervene in my sect? Disciple said something wrong, Master, don't blame me. The beautiful woman's expression froze immediately when she heard the words. Go and find out who did it, and besides, you have a token in your junior brother Han's hand. I don't care about other things, but the token must be taken back. The old man said in a deep voice. Token. The beautiful woman was startled when she heard the words, and asked in confusion, may I ask Master, what kind of token is it? The old man glanced at her lightly, and said, if you can really see it, you will naturally know what the token is. It's useless to talk about it now. Yes, that disciple hastily dealt with this matter, and Master will wait for the good news. The beautiful woman didn't dare to say anything more, and hurriedly exited the secret room. After the beautiful woman left, the little old man pondered for a while with a cloudy face, and suddenly cursed, little bastard, you are lucky that you didn't die at the hands of the old man. So, after you left the Starlight Passage, you ended up in the Black Blood Swamp? Yang Kai asked as he galloped towards Fenggalan City. The Black Blood Swamp is not too far from Fenggalan City, only a few 100,000 miles away, and Yang Kai has also heard of the existence of this swamp. Lu Yan's voice sounded from his heart. I also know that my existence can easily attract others' covetousness, so I have been hiding in hiding, not daring to show my face in front of others. What happened later? Yang Kai asked. Later, I fought with many monsters in that swamp. Some monsters seemed to want to devour me, but I escaped without any danger. Later, when I was fighting with a monster, I was killed by a monster. The passerby found that that guy had a Daoyuan second-level cultivation, not only easily killed the monster, but also arrested me and sealed it in the round bowl. Lu Yan recalled the recent past. It seemed that he still felt a little scared after the encounter. Fortunately, the skills that that person cultivated were completely incompatible with my attributes, so he didn't bother me. Just as he heard that there was going to be an auction in Fenggalan City, he took my bring it here. Hearing you say that, it's really a coincidence. Yang Kai smiled slightly and nodded. There are indeed many coincidences to be able to meet Lu Yan again. If he hadn't come directly to Fenggalan City after escaping from the Jade Feather sect that day, there would be nothing else to happen afterwards. He would definitely miss Lu Yan by then. And once an existence like Lu Yan is caught, it will not survive for too long. At that time, it will definitely be integrated into the secret treasure, or directly swallowed and absorbed by the warrior to enhance its own strength. Anyway, it's a blessing to be able to reunite with the master now. By the way, master, how is it? Lu Yan asked suddenly. Both of Yang Kai's two great helpers, Lu Yan and Xiao Xiao, can almost be said to be Yang Kai's right-hand man, and they have been staying together in mysterious Shaoji before, and they have a lot of feelings for each other, so they will naturally care about each other's whereabouts. Yang Kai looked gloomy and shook his head. There is no news about it. I hope it will be safe and sound. Lu Yan also lowered his tone. In her hometown Starfield, with her and her small abilities, she was almost invincible. But after coming to Starfield, Lu Yan discovered that there are too many powerful people in the world. She will be caught and sealed by others. Xiao Xiao may not have such a crisis. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2043 Token. When Yang Kai returned to Fenggalan City, it was already dark. He entered the city with ease and went straight to the cave. Opening the restriction of the cave mansion, Yang Kai stepped inside. Before he could stand still, he heard a joyful voice suddenly. Sir, are you back? Yang Kai couldn't help being startled, and after turning his head to look at the past, he suddenly remembered that there was another person in his cave, that little girl from the Zhang family, Zhang Ruoxi. He has been wandering around these years, basically alone. Now he suddenly has someone else to accompany him. He is really not used to it, and he has been busy with Lu Yan these few days, almost forgot Zhang Ruoxi's existence. After recovering, Yang Kai nodded slightly at her. Sir, you have worked hard for a few days, and you have worked hard outside. Zhang Ruoxi lowered her head and said softly. Her voice was very small. If it wasn't for the extreme silence in the cave, Yang Kai might not be able to hear her. Looking at her body, Yang Kai found that the little girl seemed a little nervous, and her two little hands were stirring the corners of her clothes, feeling a little restless. Master, who is this girl? She seems to be very afraid of you. Lu Yan's voice sounded from the bottom of her heart, with a hint of teasing. It seems that she is not very strong. Could it be that the master abducted her from somewhere? But the little girl was born pretty good. If you want to have a good appearance, if you want a good figure, tisk tisk. Before Lu Yan could finish speaking, Yang Kai had a thought and threw her directly into the mysterious boundary bead, cutting off contact with her. Lu Yan in Shaoshuan realm was stunned for a moment, then hummed, being a thief is a guilty conscience. After finishing speaking, she found the place where the sun essence was with ease, and transformed into a fire bird to wrap the sun essence, swallowing the sun's true fire, and strengthening her body. Inside the cave, Yang Kai looked at Zhang Ruoxi, and while the other party was waiting anxiously, he asked, You've been waiting here? If he hadn't been waiting here all this time, it would be impossible for him to see her as soon as he entered the cave. No, this servant just came here. Zhang Ruoxi replied with her head down. Yang Kai naturally wouldn't believe her, turned his head and looked around, and found that the cave seemed to have been cleaned up, clean as new. He couldn't help smiling and said, sit down, I have something to tell you. Zhang Ruoxi quickly waved her hand and said, it's no need for your servant to stand still. Yang Kai sighed, stretched out his hand, and pulled her over. In her stiff state, he pushed her into a chair and sat down, while he walked to the opposite side and sat on another chair. Slightly deliberating on the wording, Yang Kai said, Ruo Shi, it's okay for me to call you that, right? Zhang Ruoxi shook her head slowly, but didn't make a sound. Yang Kai smiled, tried to slow down his tone, and said, if you don't speak, then it's okay, that's it. I brought you out of the Zhang family. I didn't want you to repay anything, nor did I want to treat you. How about you? The matter between me and the Zhang family is only because of the agreement made by your great-grandfather Zhang Gaoxuan, so now I have settled with the Zhang family and owe nothing to anyone. Mr. Zhang Ruoxi will always remember his great kindness to the Zhang family. I will repay my husband as a cow and a horse in my life. Zhang Ruoxi said softly, although her voice was soft, her tone was extremely firm. Yang Kai nodded and said, you can think what you want. I want to tell you that the reason why I brought you out of the Zhang family is because there may be some things that need your help in the future. Zhang Ruoxi still lowered her head and said, if Sir has an assignment, Ruoxi will definitely do it well. Since Sir brought me out of the Zhang family, I am no longer a member of the Zhang family. I will do whatever Sir wants me to do, as long as the master is happy. Yang Kai rubbed his forehead, feeling a little bit like a cow playing the piano, so helpless, he could only say, I don't know how to explain it to you. So, don't call me mister, and don't call yourself a slave. I am older than you, so you can call me Brother Yang from now on. Eh? Then how is it possible? Zhang Ruoxi raised her head, waved her hands again and again, and found that Yang Kai was looking at her, and quickly lowered her head, saying, this is absolutely unacceptable, slaves cannot be rude to Sir. You have a brain. Yang Kai was annoyed. Zhang Ruoxi panicked, thinking that Yang Kai was really angry. She quickly got up and was about to kneel down. Seeing this, Yang Kai flicked his hand and made her sit back down again. Forget it, I won't bother you about this. But since you are by my side now, and I will ask you for help in the future, I won't treat you badly, you should take this thing first. Yang Kai spoke, took out a jade bottle from the space ring, opened the bottle cap, and found a panacea with pill patterns inside. What is this? Zhang Ruoxi looked at it curiously. A piece of poison, do you dare to eat it? Yang Kai said seriously. Once he finished speaking, he knew that he had some bad taste, and he despised himself for a while. Zhang Ruoxi pursed her lips and smiled, Mr. lied to me. Yang Kai looked awkward and didn't explain too much, but said, take this thing down, and then find a bedroom by yourself, and practice hard. I have to go out in a few days, you stay here obediently, don't running around. Sir, are you going out again? Zhang Ruoxi raised her head and glanced at Yang Kai, pursed her lips, and asked, do you want your servant to accompany you? No need, just take care of yourself. Yang Kai got up, smiled slightly, and walked straight to the room where he usually practiced. After Yang Kai left, Zhang Ruoxi looked at the panacea again, and after looking at it for a while, she couldn't see any tricks. She stretched out her hand and pinched it on the tip of her nose to sniff, and found that the fragrance was blowing on her face. Thinking of something, his face flushed slightly, he squeezed the panacea and put it in his mouth. The elixir entered the abdomen, and immediately turned into a stream of heat, rushing to the limbs and bones. Zhang Ruoxi's complexion changed, she dared not be negligent, she rushed into the smallest bedroom, meditated cross-legged, silently practiced profound arts. The spirit pill she took was naturally the leopard cleansing essence pill that Yang Kai spent hundreds of thousands of source crystals on. With the help of this spirit pill, before Zhang Ruoxi was promoted to the Void King realm, her own aptitude would be reduced. You will get full growth, and the time required for cultivation will be greatly shortened. Although the little girl is young, she has a lot of knowledge, so she naturally knows that such a panacea with pill patterns is very valuable, and perhaps all the financial resources of the Zhang family may not be able to obtain such a panacea. Naturally, I am very grateful to Yang Kai for his generosity. On the other side, in the room, Yang Kai waited to see Zhang Ruoxi take the leopard jexi pill and went to meditate to practice, then he waved his hand and opened all the restrictions in the room. Immediately, he took out nearly 10 space rings and began to sort out his harvest. Half an hour later, Yang Kai looked happily at everything sorted out in front of him. Among the nearly 10 space rings, the source crystals alone allowed him to harvest more than 8 million yuan. Among them, Han Lang had the most source crystals, almost 6 million yuan. Thinking about it, at the auction meeting, Han Lang bid more than 6 million yuan in order to compete with Ningyuan City for Luoyang. If he didn't have so many source crystals in his hand, how could he dare to speak casually? With so many source crystals, Yang Kai was ecstatic. He worked so hard to save before, but only saved 1 million source crystals. After an auction meeting, he spent hundreds of thousands more, and now he got more than 8 million yuan in one go. It seems that for a long time in the future, Yang Kai doesn't need to worry about yuan jing. In addition to the huge number of source crystals, there are naturally some elixirs and the like, but these elixirs are of no use to Yang Kai, and as an alchemist, he also looks down upon them, but they can also be sold. The harvest of secret treasures is not small. In addition to the exquisite building boat that is still lying in mysterious Shaoji, Yang Kai has harvested as many as 3 Daoyuan level secret treasures alone. One of them was the long sword that Han Lang had used before. Although it was only Daoyuan low rank level, it still satisfied Yang Kai enough. The other one is a piece of armor owned by Ningyuan City. I don't know what material the armor is made of. A bit higher. The third item is of course the Moyu cauldron that Han Lang had previously bid for. This is an alchemy furnace of the Daoyuan level, which has many magical effects. Han Lang spent a lot of money to buy it at that time. It will be cheaper for Yang Kai. Except for these 3 Daoyuan level secret treasures, the others are some Void King level secret treasures, and together they are worth a lot. In addition, there are some materials, including medicinal materials for alchemy and minerals for refining tools, all neatly organized by Yang Kai. Of all the things here, what Yang Kai cares most about is a token-like thing. If Yang Kai remembered correctly, it should have been found from Han Lang's space ring. The token is not big, only the size of a palm, with a golden color, a lifelike real dragon pattern engraved on the front with its head up and its tail swaying, and on the back, a dragon character written in ancient characters. Yang Kai used his divine sense and also used his own strength to examine the token carefully, and found that he couldn't distinguish its material, searched the information in his mind, and didn't know what the token was for. However, since it can be placed in the space ring by a strong man like Han Lang, the origin of this token may be extraordinary. Yang Kai decisively threw it into the mysterious boundary bead, waiting to study it slowly in the future. Afterwards, he put away those elixirs and secret treasures, released his spiritual thoughts, and realized that Zhang Ruoxi was using the leopard Jexi pill to improve his body. After the progress went well, Shi Shiren stood up. Half a day later, in the black market in Fenggalan City, Yang Kai sold many spoils that he had accumulated recently. In the black market in Maplewood City, there are no goods to eat, and buyers will not ask the source of these things. Although the price is much cheaper than outside, it is better than enough to be safe and hidden. Yang Kai didn't sell all of them in one shop, but found a few more, so as not to be seen by others. During the whole process, he also dressed up in disguise, and even used his spiritual sense to hide his appearance. I believe that with the level of these warriors in Fenggalan City, no one can see through his true face. After Yang Kai returned from the black market, the number of source crystals in his hands had exceeded the tens of millions, and he suddenly became rich. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AC plus or minus a degree a diaresis T. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2044 Yuanding Mountain. 2 days later, when Yang Kai was sacrificing a few new Daoyuan level secret treasures in the cave, his expression suddenly changed, and he took out a communication compass from the space ring. Up. After a while, Shi Shiren left the cave and went straight to the city gate. Half an hour later, in a small forest about 30,000 miles away from Fenggalan City, Yang Kai fell from the sky. Before he could check around, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. He smiled and clasped his fists and said, "Brother Yang is so fast. Brother Kong, I've been waiting for a long time." Yang Kai also smiled at the other party and replied. The person in front of him is naturally Kong Saran. After Yang Kai received his summons just now, he immediately understood that the other party was ready, but the two did not walk out of Fenggalan City together but acted separately and met here. Kong Saran is also a cautious person, which suits Yang Kai's appetite. "It's nothing, I just arrived, and I haven't caught my breath yet. Brother Yang, you're here," Kong Saran said with a smile. "Since Brother Yang has already arrived, it's not too late, let's set off now." While speaking, he opened his mouth, and spit out a secret treasure in the shape of a long shuttle from his mouth. The secret treasure opened in the wind, and soon turned into a shuttle-shaped object about 3 feet long. Kong Saran pinched a few spells, and shot forward a source of force, and the secret treasure immediately showed a small hole. When Yang Kai saw this, he immediately understood that this was also a flying secret treasure, so he stepped into it unambiguously, and after Kong Saran also entered, under his urging, the long shuttle secret treasure was released with extreme speed, flying forward at a fast speed. Brother Yang laughed. My flying secret treasure is only of the Void King level middle grade. The speed is not very fast, but the advantage is to save energy. It is better than you and I flying on foot. Kong Saran controlled his own flying secret treasure, said at the same time. Yang Kai nodded and said, it's enough, but I don't know how long it will take to reach the destination. About 3 days. Kong Saran said, it just so happened that I also told Brother Yang about the situation there. Yang Kai Dao. I'm about to ask about this. At the moment, the two stayed inside the secret treasure and chatted. After Kong Saran's narration, Yang Kai knew that the place where the cave of Gongsun Mu, the third disciple of Emperor Miaodan, was located was a place called Yuanding Mountain. Seen from a distance, this mountain looks like a treasured tripod, so it is called Yuanding Mountain by the people nearby. And this Yuanding Mountain is within the sphere of influence of the Raging Fire Palace. In the early years, Kong Saran also went to explore quietly alone, but unfortunately at that time he was not strong enough to break through the restriction of the cave, so he left in good spirits and returned disappointed. According to his estimate at the time, even if Gongsunmu's cave was in disrepair for a long time, it would not be possible for a warrior of the Void King realm to break through it independently. At least a warrior of the Dao origin realm could have this ability. That's why he had no choice but to invite Shang Yang Kai to go together, otherwise with his current strength, even if he went alone, he would be powerless. The reason why Yang Kai was invited was because Gongsun Mu was proficient in alchemy, and his cave was definitely attractive to Yang Kai, and he was not afraid of Yang Kai's rejection. On the other hand, it was also because of the days of contact with Yang Kai that Kong Saran felt that he was a trustworthy person. Otherwise, how could Kong Saran rashly invite others to cooperate in such a big matter? Even relatives and friends, there are not a few examples of turning against each other in the face of huge interests. Brother Kong, since Yuanding Mountain is within the sphere of influence of the Raging Fire Palace, we have to be careful when the time comes, otherwise it will be difficult to be discovered by the people of the Raging Fire Palace. After hearing this, Yang Kai couldn't help frowning. Although his time in Fenggalan City was not long, he still heard a lot about the Raging Fire Palace. Among the forces near Fenggalan City, originally only the Raging Fire Palace could compete with the City Lord's mansion, because the strongest in Fenggalan City is the City Lord Duan Yuanshan, who has a cultivation level of the second level of Daoyuan, and in the Raging Fire Palace there is also the Luo surnamed Howmaster of the Daoyuan second layer. It's a pity that the master of the palace surnamed Luo was burned to death by the ancient holy spirit Luanfeng in Yuqing Mountain. Today's Raging Fire Palace should be greatly reduced in strength. Brother Yang, don't worry. Kong Saran smiled when he heard the words. I asked a friend before, the Raging Fire Palace is too busy to take care of itself now, how can we have the time to take care of us? How do you say this? Yang Kai was stunned. Kong Saran said, Brother Yang, you should have heard about the fact that the original Lord Luo of Raging Fire Hall fell in Yuqing Mountain, right? Yang Kai nodded, thinking that he had heard more than that. He was also present at the time. If there was no mysterious boundary orb to hide, he must have been buried with Palace Master Luo. How Master Luo has fallen, and the Raging Fire Hall is now a piece of loose sand. The two remaining deputy Howmasters in the hall are now busy fighting for power. The news is reliable. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Naturally reliable. Kong Saran smiled slightly, not to mention that they are now fighting for power, and the Yuanding Mountain is at the edge of the power of the Raging Fire Palace. It is extremely desolate. When I explored it in the early years, I didn't even see a single figure arrived. So Brother Yang, don't worry too much. As long as we act carefully this time, it will definitely be unnoticed. This is the best. Yang Kai nodded in satisfaction. At the moment, the two of them stopped talking about this matter, but chatted casually. Both of them are at the third level of the Void King, and they have the same level of cultivation. They are both going to hit the bottleneck of the Daoyuan realm. Naturally, they have many common topics. Along the way, they exchange their cultivation experience and their own understanding of the Daoyuan realm, as well as the rules. With the understanding of power, time flies by. During the period, the two took turns controlling the secret treasure of the long shuttle flight, so that everyone's strength could be restored. 3 days later, a mountain peak in the shape of a treasure tripod came into the eyes of the two of them. "That's Yuanding Mountain." Yang Kai raised his head and asked. "That's right." Kong Saran's eyes reflected a trace of fiery meaning, as if he was yearning for the mountain in front of him. In the 5-color pagoda, he failed to obtain the Daoyuan fruit, and he did not have enough financial resources to bid at the auction. Now his hope of advancing to the Daoyuan realm depends entirely on Gongsunmu's cave. I hope that there is a refined Daoyuan pill in the cave. Slowly, Kong Saran frowned, and looked forward intently. At the same time, Yang Kai also suspiciously said, "No, shopkeeper Kong, it's not the same as what you said, it seems to be very lively." With Yang Kai's eyesight, even if he was separated by hundreds of miles, he could still see a lot of people moving there, and from time to time, there were 1 or 2 streamers flying up and down, which seemed quite lively. Kong Saran couldn't help but his face darkened, and he stood up all of a sudden. But at this moment, a rainbow light flew towards them, and in the rainbow light, there was a figure standing vaguely, directly welcoming the two of them. Kong Saran's face changed, and he quickly controlled his flying treasure to stop. After a while, the rainbow light flew to the front, and the light dissipated, revealing the figure of a person. This person looks to be about 30 years old, has the cultivation base of the 2nd level of the Void King, and on the clothes he wears, there is a raging fire burning on his chest. The mark is quite eye-catching. Disciple of Raging Fire Palace. Kong Saran was startled, then turned to look at Yang Kai. Yang Kai shook his head slowly, signaling him to be calm. At this moment, the disciple of the Raging Fire Hall in front shouted, "This place is within the sphere of influence of my Raging Fire Hall. Friends in Suone, please show up." Kong Saran frowned, and after pondering for a moment, he gave Yang Kai a wink, and then his figure flashed, revealing his figure together with Yang Kai. The disciples of the Raging Fire Palace swept away their spiritual thoughts, and found that Kong Saran and Yang Kai's cultivation bases were a level higher than his, and they didn't mean to panic at all, but clasped their fists and said, "Dare to ask the two friends, but I came here for this Yuanding Mountain." When Kong Saran heard this, he couldn't help feeling a sudden, almost mistakenly thinking that his secret operation had been exposed this time, and he didn't know how to answer for a while. Fortunately, Yang Kai immediately picked up the words and said, "Not bad. Since they are all here for Yuanding Mountain, then follow me." The Raging Fire Palace disciple didn't show any surprise when he heard that, instead he waved at the two of them and took the lead to fly towards Yuanding Mountain. Kong Saran and Yang Kai looked at each other, both confused. But the matter has come to this point, we can only settle down as it comes, and take one step at a time. At the moment, Kong Saran put away his long shuttle secret treasure, followed closely behind the Raging Fire Palace disciple with Yang Kai, and flew towards Yuanding Mountain. The distance of 300 miles has been reached in a short while. Before the group of 3 people landed, suddenly a humming sound came from the inside of Yuanding Mountain, as if there was a muffled thunder rolling in the mountain. It was deafening. Both Kong Saran and Yang Kai's expressions changed, subconsciously urging the power in their bodies to prevent accidents. However, the disciple of Raging Fire Hall who led the way ahead showed no surprise at all. Not only did he stop, but he even looked up with great interest. Following his gaze, Yang Kai also looked up. The sound of rolling thunder continued, from bottom to top, as if something was about to rush out of Yuanding Mountain. A moment later, there was a bang. From the top of the mountain, a condensed multicolored ray of light shot out unexpectedly. Circles and circles, layer by layer, the glow spread outward like ripples, and gradually disappeared. At the same time, Yang Kai couldn't help taking a deep breath, his face revealing a look of astonishment. "It smells so good, what is this?" Kong Saran looked uncertain, and he also sucked in the air at the side. At this moment, the air is filled with a strong and strange fragrance, which makes people feel refreshed. The disciple of Raging Fire Hall who was leading the way heard these words, looked back at Kong Saran, and said, "Aren't you too attracted by this vision?" Yang Kai rolled his eyes, and immediately said, "Exactly, it's just that I don't know what this vision is, so I want to get closer to take a look." "Hey, what caused this vision? I don't know. I just heard from Master Zong and Master Lien that this should be a sign that the strange treasure is about to be born." To be continued. If you like this movie works, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2045 Negotiation. I've had a cold for several days, so uncomfortable. Palace Master Zong and Palace Master Lian. Yang Kai couldn't help being startled when he heard this. It's the original two vice masters of Raging Fire Palace, one is Zong Qing and the other is Lian Yuming. Kong Saran explained in a low voice. Yang Kai showed a clear look, looked down, and quickly locked on to the two Dao Source Realm powerhouses standing not far away, thinking that these two people should be Zong Qing and Lian Yuming. The two deputy hall masters of the Raging Fire Palace both have the strength of the first level of Daoyuan, and these two people also have the Raging Fire Palace's mark on their clothes, so it should be unmistakable. Yang Kai suddenly remembered that when he was practicing in the five-color pagoda, he met a guy named Zong Zigen at the Ascension Dragon altar. Come on, Zong Zigen and Zong Qing are very likely to be related by blood, maybe even father and son. After a while, the vision disappeared, and at the same time, the strange fragrance in the air disappeared in an instant. The Raging Fire Palace disciple who led Yang Kai and Kong Saran waved his hand, brought the two of them down, and clasped his fists in front of the two Dao Source Realm powerhouses, reporting to the two palace masters, there are two more people are attracted by the vision of Yuanding Mountain. Hearing his report, among the two powerhouses in the Dao Origin Realm, the taller one nodded, and after his divine sense swept over Yang Kai and Kong Saran, he said lightly, come on, come on. All right, just take it aside and set it up. Yes. The Raging Fire Palace disciple responded, leading Yang Kai and Kong Saran to the side, and said, you guys wait here, if there is any action, I will notify you. Wait a minute, Yang Kai quickly stopped him. What else is there? The Raging Fire Palace disciple seemed quite impatient. Yang Kai grinned, leaned forward, reached out and quietly stuffed some source crystals for him, and said in a low voice, it's such a friend, I want to ask, what's the situation now? If it's convenient, can you explain to me one time? The Raging Fire Palace disciple felt the number of source crystals that were continuously sent from Yang Kai's hands in his sleeves, and then he smiled with satisfaction and said, what else can happen? Let's be honest, the inside of Yuanding Mountain doesn't know what's the matter, there actually appeared a cave of the predecessors. If it wasn't for this vision, no one would have known about it. You see, our two palace masters and many elite disciples in the palace have rushed here. From the cave. Predecessor's cave. Yang Kai pretended to be extremely surprised, rolled his eyes abruptly, and said, since we have discovered the predecessor's cave, why don't you explore the Raging Fire Palace alone? Welcome here, why? Hearing this, the disciple of Raging Fire Palace looked around and whispered, if you can explore alone, what do you think there is anyone else? It's just that the two palace masters have already tried it, and they can't break through this hole with their strength. The restriction of the cave, this cave seems to be left by a strong emperor, the power of the restriction is still extremely strong even after countless years, all the elites of our Raging Fire Palace are together, there is nothing we can do about the restriction, so you can only rely on external force. Hearing what he said, Yang Kai immediately revealed a clear expression, so that's it. On the side, Kong Saran frowned, obviously a little surprised, after all, he also came to investigate this cave quietly back then, and felt that although the restriction was powerful, it would not make it difficult for those who were strong in the source of Tao. It's not good to ask rashly. According to what you said, it seems that your palace intends to use the power of us outsiders to break the restriction. Yang Kai asked thoughtfully. It's natural, there are more people, there is more power. Yang Kai chuckled. With the help of our strength, I naturally have no objection, but if the restriction is really broken, how should the things inside be distributed? The disciple of Raging Fire Hall shook his head and said, I don't know about it. This is something that the two hall masters need to worry about. Well, that's all for now. My friend, please stay calm and don't be impatient. After the words fell, this person walked away without any explanation, not giving Yang Kai a chance to ask questions. After this person left, Yang Kai took a look at Kong Saran, and the two of them walked aside tacitly, their expressions were a bit ugly. I really didn't expect that things would turn out like this. Kong Saran frowned, if we had known this earlier, we should have come to investigate earlier. Hey, now that this vision appears, I'm afraid we will see it in the vicinity. Everyone will come over. It shouldn't make any difference if you come early or come late. Since the two Daoyuan realms can't break the restriction with their own actions, with the strength of the two of us, I'm afraid there is nothing we can do. Although there are disadvantages in the current situation, it is not necessarily disadvantageous. Quote, Brother Yang, what do you say? Kong Saran looked at him in astonishment. Yang Kai grinned and said, "Shopkeeper Kong has resources that other people don't have, and this is an advantage." Hearing this, Kong Saran thought for a while, then nodded and said, "That's right, what I have in my hand is of great value." What the two were referring to was naturally the road map inside the cave. The descendants of Gongsunmu's servants gave Kong Saran not only the specific location of the cave, but also the internal routes. With this thing in hand, no matter how many people go in, Yang Kai and Kong Saran are not afraid of losing the opportunity. Moreover, according to the information that Yang Kai inquired before, the people in Raging Fire Palace only know that there is a cave in Yuanding Mountain, as for whose cave and what is in it, they don't know at all. Thinking of this, Kong Saran's heart was settled. He looked at Yang Kai, closed his eyes and meditated calmly, and waited quietly. With the passage of time, more and more warriors were attracted by the vision and rushed to Yuanding Mountain, but the strength of these warriors is really mixed. There are a lot of void return mirrors and only a dozen void king realm. Including the warriors who have already gathered here before, the number of people has broken through the 70 mark. 2 days later, the two Daoyuan experts from Raging Fire Palace looked at each other. Zong Qing nodded lightly and said, "It's almost time to start, let's start." Lian Yuming also nodded and said, "The night is long and dreamy, it's time to do it." After the words fell, the two stood up at the same time. As soon as these two people made a move, the warriors who gathered here opened their eyes one after another, and stared at them. Zong Qing swept his eyes down, and said, "Everyone should have been attracted by the vision here, thank you for waiting here for such a long time." Zong Qing, the deputy head of the lower Raging Fire Palace, must be recognized by many people. The name of the deputy master of the Zong, we will naturally know, but the deputy master of the Zong, dare to ask you to gather us here. What is the so-called, what are the famous places inside this Yuanding Mountain? Immediately, a impatient warrior asked Road. Hearing this, Zong Qing smiled slightly and said, "This friend asked a good question, and Zong wants to explain this issue to you." In fact, Zong doesn't know exactly what is going on inside Yuanding Mountain. "I only know that there is an ancestor's cave here, and it seems to be the cave left by the Emperor. The cave of the Emperor Senior Realm Powerhouse. It's actually inside Yuanding Mountain. This place used to be desolate. I passed by this place many times, why didn't I think of exploring it? Hey, what a loss." All of a sudden, there was a lot of noise. Some people were extremely annoyed, some were extremely excited, and some people's expressions changed. Zong Qing said with a smile, "I have explored this cave before in Raging Fire Palace. Although I broke through the first 2 layers of restrictions, I couldn't break through the last layer of restrictions, so I have been unable to enter. Therefore, I can only rely on the help of friends. Strength, you will work with my Raging Fire Palace later. As long as you break this last layer of restriction, you can open this ancestor's cave and get a glimpse of what's inside." It turns out that the first 2 layers of restrictions have been broken. Kong Saran showed a thoughtful expression. He had been wondering why the 2 powerful sources of Daoyuan in the Raging Fire Palace could not break the restrictions. Now it seems that it is not impossible to break through, but it is blocked at the last layer. Thinking about it this way made some sense. His previous investigation was not wrong, but with his strength, he couldn't detect deeper restrictions. If it wasn't for this phenomenon, with him and Yang Kai, even if they could break through the first 2 layers of restrictions, they would still be blocked by the 3rd layer of restrictions. Thinking of this, Kong Saran felt a little more balanced. Everyone should be aware of what is in the cave of the Emperor Prestige Realm Powerhouse, and judging from this vision, Zong can guarantee that there is definitely something good in the cave, and that thing is very likely to be about to mature. Herbs and miraculous medicine. The vision is very obvious, the multicolored glow sprays out, and there is a seductive fragrance under the spread of the ripples. This kind of vision cannot be brought by secret treasures, and only rare spiritual herbs can produce it. Sect Master, I would like to ask, if the restriction is broken, how will the contents be distributed? You have strong people in the Raging Fire Palace, if you really try to snatch it, we will have no chance to fight back. Among the crowd, a sharp voice came suddenly, erratic, making it impossible to figure out the source of the sound. As soon as this remark came out, everyone fell silent, and looked at Zong Qing with burning eyes. It was obvious that everyone was very concerned about this issue, and it was also a place of concern for everyone. When Zong Qing heard the words, he didn't mean to be angry at all, but smiled and said, Zhang Mo understands everyone's worries, but Zhang Mo can guarantee that if you can really work together to break the restriction, then whoever gets the good things inside will win. Who's? Zhang and brother Lian will definitely not attack any of you. Lian Yuming had been standing by the side silently, but now he nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, there is no basis for what you say. How can we all believe you if you just say a word? Even if you and Vice Hall Master Lian really make a move, will we still be able to resist? The sharp voice repeated outgoing. Zhang Qing smiled slightly, glanced across the crowd, and quickly fixed on a thin man with deep eyes looking at him and said, if this friend really can't trust Zhang and brother Lian, then you can leave. Yes, we will never force you. To be continued, this text is provided by the Breakdawn Update Group at AA Copyright CC. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations, monthly tickets, your support, that's my biggest motivation. Chapter 2046 Breaking the Ban. Among the crowd, the face of the skinny man Zhang Qing stared at changed slightly, making him look ugly. However, he was also a bachelor. Seeing that his whereabouts had been revealed, he simply stopped hiding, but clasped his fists and said, forgive me, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I made a slip of the tongue just now. Since the two Hall Masters have this guarantee, I naturally believe that the two-bit. In the current situation, the arms cannot twist the thighs. Zhang Qing has already put his words here, others can't force him to swear a poisonous oath or something. If he wants to enter the cave, there is only one choice, believe Zhang Qing's words. So the skinny man judged the situation and hurriedly made a compromise. Hearing what he said, Zhang Qing smiled with satisfaction, looked around and said, if any friends have doubts about this, you might as well bring them up, and Zhang can answer them one by one for you. There was silence. Zhang Qing nodded in satisfaction and said, okay, it seems that you are all prepared. If this is the case, then it is not too late. We are ready to do it now, but the ugly words are ahead. When the restriction is broken, whoever dares don't blame Zhang for being ruthless if you don't work hard and fish in troubled waters. Everyone even said they dare not. At this time, Lian Yuming, who had been standing beside Zhang Qing, said, now I will explain the characteristics of this restriction to you, and you will cooperate and work together later. Listen carefully, this ancestor's cave is definitely it was left by a strong emperor senior realm. The restrictions outside the cave are divided into 3 layers. It is not difficult to crack the first and second layers. My disciples in the Raging Fire Palace are already familiar with it. The only difficult thing is the 3rd layer. If you want to crack it, you must have enough power. If you don't have enough power, you can't break it. Once the 3rd layer cannot be broken, the 1st and 2nd layers that were broken before will be repaired quickly. I was stuck on the 3rd floor. Later, my disciples of the Raging Fire Palace will try to destroy the first 2 floors that have been repaired before, and all friends will jointly crack the 3rd floor with me and brother Zhang. Do you have any opinions? Quote. Naturally, I have no objection, but Vice Hallmaster Lian, what's the point of this cracking method? Don't you just need to attack the restriction with all your strength? Someone asked below, and this is also a question that everyone cares about. Lian Yuming nodded when he heard the words, and said, exercise is the effort, you can't use brute force, you must rely on the power of the secret treasure. That's it, the old man has a secret treasure in his hand, which can be used here. While speaking, he suddenly flicked his wrist, and a dagger about 2 fingers long appeared in the palm of his hand. The dagger was pitch black, and there was a strange light flowing on the edge. It looked like a good thing. Daoyuan level secret treasure, someone exclaimed, showing an envious look. The warriors who came here are basically all Void Returning Mirrors in Void King Realm, and they don't have Daoyuan level secret treasures in their hands. Now when they see this dagger, they are naturally very surprised. That's right, this old man's dagger is not an ordinary Daoyuan level secret treasure, but a Daoyuan level middle grade secret treasure. It also has a characteristic, the greater the power poured into it, the more damage it can unleash. Big, so I can't fully use this dagger to exert its full effect with my old man's ability. Later, after brother Zhang and I do it, you can pour your own strength into this dagger, and the rest I will leave the matter to the old man. Lian Yuming said with a face of complacency, as if he was very satisfied with his dagger. It turns out that Deputy Palace Master Lian has such a strange secret treasure, so it will definitely be no problem to break the restriction this time. A warrior below cheered up. Whether there is any problem, it depends on whether you can work hard enough. Lian Yuming flicked his wrist, put away the dagger again, and shouted, If you have no other problems, then rest for a quarter of an hour. In a quarter of an hour, we will start to act." After finishing speaking, he took the lead in closing his eyes and resting his mind. Seeing this, the others naturally crossed their legs and adjusted their breath, trying to make their state reach the peak. But that Zongqing was not idle, walked up to many disciples in Raging Fire Hall, and talked to them carefully, and their conversations were not deliberately covered up, so everyone could still hear clearly. Seeing that Zongqing was just telling the many disciples of Raging Fire Hall to seize the opportunity to break the restriction, everyone was relieved. "Brother Yang, be careful in the future. I always feel that something is wrong. People in Raging Fire Palace shouldn't be so easygoing." Saran's voice suddenly entered Yang Kai's ears. Yang Kai nodded calmly. None of the martial artists present are fools. Naturally, many people have concerns and doubts in this regard, but at present, no one will take the risk of offending the Raging Fire Palace to bring this issue to the table. They can only be vigilant in secret and play by ear up. A quarter of an hour later, Lian Yuming and Zongqing got together again, and the former suddenly shouted, "It's time, come with me." While speaking, he immediately flew upwards. Seeing this, the others naturally followed in a hurry. After a while, everyone came to the halfway up the Yuanding mountain. There was a sudden stone platform on the halfway up the mountain. The size of the platform was not small enough to accommodate dozens of people in front of the platform, but it was a bare stone wall. After arriving here, Lian Yuming and Zongqing asked everyone to stop, while they flew to the stone wall and inspected it carefully. "That's the entrance?" Yang Kai quietly asked Saran. Saran nodded indistinctly, but did not speak. After a while, the two vice masters of the Raging Fire Palace flew back again and stood still in front of everyone. Zongqing said, "Everyone, Zong and brother Lian went to check just now and confirmed that the restriction has indeed been repaired. Everyone, just follow what we discussed just now. If we can break the restriction in one fell swoop, then we can enter the cave of the Emperor Senior Realm Powerhouse to take a peek. Inside, I will wait for a worthwhile trip." As soon as the words were spoken, many people showed excited expressions and their blood boiled. Zongqing suddenly turned serious, and shouted in a low voice, "Disciples of Raging Fire Palace, let's do it." After the words fell, the dozen or so elite disciples of Raging Fire Hall suddenly divided into two groups, each forming a strange formation, with one of the most powerful warriors in each formation as the center, constantly picking up mysterious spells in their hands. Yang Kai saw the figure of Zong Zigen among these people, and he was the center of a group of people. As the power of the people in the Raging Fire Palace circulated, a surprising scene appeared. The power of these people seems to be connected together, no longer separate from each other, and as the center of the two Raging Fire Palace disciples, their aura has risen from the Void King's third level to the Daoyuan level. This is obviously a special secret technique of the Raging Fire Palace, which allows the caster to connect the power in series to achieve a level of improvement in a short period of time. A moment later, the leader of one of the group let out a muffled yell, and suddenly a sharp sword appeared in his hand, and all his strength poured into it. The sharp sword trembled slightly in the void, and rushed forward, directly stabbing it in the void middle. In front of that, a layer of dazzling forbidden light suddenly lit up, blocking the long sword. But under the desperate urging of the warrior, the restriction was quickly cut off. And at this moment, the second wave of disciples of Raging Fire Palace, led by Zong Zigen, also activated the power of the secret technique. Zong Zigen got the blessing of everyone's strength, a ray of light flashed in his hand, and he didn't know what secret treasure he had used, so he threw it forward, bursting out a ray of light. The ray of light passed over the broken restriction on the first layer, and soon touched the barrier of the second layer of restriction. Judging from the strength of the restriction, the second layer of restriction is much thicker than the first layer, but it still cannot stop the methods of the warriors like Raging Fire Palace. Not long after, the second layer of restriction was broken. At this moment, Lian Yuming, who had been waiting all this time, shouted loudly, "Shoot!" After saying that, he directly sacrificed the dagger secret treasure from before, and the spirit weapon in his hand changed like a butterfly wearing a flower. Zongqing, who was standing next to him, heard the words and poured his own strength into the dagger without thinking. The next moment, dozens of foreign warriors also used their techniques one after another, pouring their own power into the inner dagger. The dagger hummed, and with the infusion of countless powers, its size also changed. In the blink of an eye, it became a huge monster about 2 feet long, and colorful spots appeared on the surface. Shine. Lian Yuming's arms trembled violently, with a hard look on his face, as if the Imperial Envoy's control of this huge force was also a huge pressure on him. He only persisted for less than 10 breaths of effort, and he had to shout, "Go!" As he pointed his finger, the 2-foot-long dagger shot out with a whizzing sound, skimming over the first layer of restriction and the second layer of restriction, and directly slashed into the void. Boom, a sound. The dagger shook slightly, and Lian Yuming's body trembled even more. At this moment, the other fighters who poured power into the dagger seemed to feel a huge force rebounding back, which made many people his complexion changed slightly. In front of the dagger, a thicker layer of restraint shone with light, and it was equal to the dagger, so that the dagger could no longer make an inch of progress. Seeing this, Lian Yuming couldn't help but look a little ugly. He kept changing several spirit moves in his hands, but he couldn't break the third layer of restriction for a while. The situation suddenly froze. What made the situation even worse was that Zigen suddenly shouted at this moment, "Father, the second layer of restriction is about to be repaired." While speaking, the gap in the second layer of restriction that he was in charge of breaking open unexpectedly glowed with white light, and the cut was repaired at an extremely fast speed, forcing him and the other disciples of Raging Fire Palace to desperately urge power, maintaining the status quo. When Zongqing saw it, his face darkened immediately, and he shouted, "Everyone, success or failure depends on one action. If we can't break through the third layer of restrictions, we will never be able to enter this ancestor's cave. Do you still want to keep your strength? Don't you want to see what good things are in that cave?" To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users please to read. Chapter 2047 Crossing the River and Demolishing the Bridge. Chapter 2047 Crossing the River and Destroying the Bridge. As soon as Zongqing said this, everyone's face was terrified, and a few people even became embarrassing. Obviously, as Zongqing said, the warriors who cooperated with the two Daoyuan realm actions did not use their full strength, and they all counted on others to come out. More strength, so that I can sit back and enjoy the benefits. If the third layer of restriction is broken in one fell swoop, then it's okay to say that no one will criticize anything, but now that the third layer of restriction has reached a stalemate in the cracking process, it puts some people in an embarrassing situation. Zongqing said again. Zongmo doesn't know what you think, but Zongmo wants to see what kind of treasure is inside. After the words fell, he summoned the strength in his body and poured more fiercely towards the dagger. Seeing this, someone in the crowd couldn't help shouting loudly, "Since the deputy master of the sect is so confiding, what are we waiting to hide? If we don't take action now, when will we wait?" When this person spoke, he no longer hid his clumsiness, and tried his best to mobilize his whole body of saints. The rest of the people looked at each other, their eyes became determined, and they encouraged each other. In an instant, the already huge dagger grew a lot, obviously because more power was poured into it. And such an increase made Lian Yuming feel a little uncontrollable. He couldn't help his face changed, and he shouted loudly, "Okay, with the help of all of you, I will break this restriction even if I risk my life." He opened his mouth and sprayed out a mouthful of bright red blood, which turned into a cloud of blood mist and enveloped the dagger. Soon, the blood mist was completely absorbed by the dagger, and a layer of bright red light immediately appeared on the colorful dagger, and the originally turbulent dagger became stable again. Accompanied by Lian Yuming's roar, there was an earth-shattering sound of collision and cutting between the dagger and the third layer of restraint, and the aura in the world suddenly became chaotic. Click. Finally, there was a soft sound, and everyone who heard the reputation looked up and couldn't help but look happy. Because that impregnable third layer of restriction finally cracked a hole. Lian Yuming changed his method again, and he acted like a tiger, urging his Daoyuan level middle-grade secret treasure to slash forward. With a bang, the third layer of restriction was instantly shattered, like a shattered mirror, falling apart just like that. At the moment when the third layer of restriction was broken, the first layer and the second layer of restriction also disappeared like a punctured bubble. "It's done," someone shouted happily. There are even people who have already moved their bodies, ready to rush forward. But at this moment, Lian Yuming and Zongqing suddenly retreated more than 10 feet backward. At the same time, those disciples of Raging Fire Palace also made the same movement and retreated together. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai couldn't help feeling a little bit in his heart. Without saying a word, he grabbed Kong Saran who was about to rush forward, and flew back a distance of several tens of feet. The next moment, the sound of whoosh, whoosh, suddenly burst out. Dazzling rays of light shot out from the stone wall in front, dense like raindrops, and fell towards the crowd. What is this? Not good, hide. There were screams and shouts, and those unsuspecting scattered warriors naturally ran away again and again when they saw that something was wrong. However, the speed of the attack launched from the stone wall was too fast, and they approached without waiting for these people to take precautions. The next moment, screams sounded one after another. The warriors who volleyed in the sky shot blood, like dumplings, falling from the sky, and the warriors who were even less powerful exploded into a cloud of blood mist, leaving no bones left. Dozens of martial artists, more than half of them fell in an instant, and none of the void-returning mirror level survived. Arms and legs, looks horrible. Far away, Yang Kai's face couldn't help but sink, and Kong Saran's face was even paler, with an expression of lingering fear. If Yang Kai hadn't seen the opportunity and pulled him just now, he might be seriously injured if he didn't die at this moment. After the restriction is broken, there are indeed other traps. Zhang Qing's words suddenly came from the side. Lian Yuming nodded gently beside him. Fortunately, I was prepared, otherwise. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked around. Seeing his gaze, the remaining warriors who were still alive were all filled with righteous indignation and looked angry. But no one dared to say anything. Because everyone knows that it is useless to say anything now. Although Raging Fire Palace did not act kindly this time, but when you are away from home, where is there no intrigue? Where is there no intrigue? How can I blame others for not being able to guard against myself? I can only blame myself for not being more careful. What's more, the Raging Fire Palace is not damaged at all, and there are 2 Daoyuan realm powerhouses sitting in it, and they have not taken the initiative to attack others. If they are blamed now, they may be really messed with and killed. No one would do such a stupid thing. Huh. Zhang Qing suddenly turned his head and glanced at Yang Kai and Kong Saran who were standing tens of feet away, and let out a light sigh, as if surprised that these 2 people were safe and sound. But he didn't pay much attention to it, but said to everyone in Raging Fire Palace, the restriction has been lifted, let's go in. While speaking, he took the lead and rushed towards the entrance exposed by the stone wall. The rest of the people from the Raging Fire Palace followed closely behind, and after a while, all the people from the Raging Fire Palace left. Until then, there was a sound of cursing, but now those warriors can only enjoy their mouths. With heavy casualties, who has the courage to explore the cave of the ancestors? Not to mention whether there are more terrifying restrictions in it, let's say that the vicious guys in the Raging Fire Palace are not easy to mess with. Entering it in their state is definitely a narrow escape. So after scolding for a while, many people immediately fled away, looking like they were looking for a place to heal their injuries. Yang Kai and Kong Saran looked at each other, their expressions were extremely ugly. Although it has been known for a long time that the people in Raging Fire Palace will not be so easy to talk to, but no one thought that they would kill people with a knife, and almost cut off potential competitors directly. Among the warriors from outside, only Yang Kai and Kong Saran are still intact. If they enter it rashly, if they encounter the team from Raging Fire Palace, they both know what will happen. Just when the 2 were undecided, there was a rumbling sound from the opening in the stone wall. Hearing the sound, the 2 were startled. When they looked up, they saw that the opening was closed at a subtle speed. This entrance can't exist for a long time. Yang Kai couldn't help but change his face, and quickly said, Brother Kong, should you enter or not? Kong Saran's face changed for a while, and he hesitated in his heart. Seeing that the hole was about to be completely closed, he gritted his teeth and said, Brother Yang, go back, I'll go in alone. He obviously didn't want to drag Yang Kai down. After the words fell, his figure flickered, and he flew directly towards the stone wall. After a while, he stepped into Yuanding Mountain, and when he looked back, the entrance of the cave was closed. As if aware of it, Kong Saran turned his head and saw Yang Kai looking at him with a smile. He didn't realize what exactly Yang Kai came in with him, and he couldn't help being shocked. Brother Yang, you. I have something to say later, let's solve the trouble in front of me first. Yang Kai chuckled, then turned around and stared at the front. In front of that, there were 2 disciples of Raging Fire Palace who were at the 3rd level of the Void King, looking at this side coldly, with unfriendly expressions on their faces. The person on the left is tall, perhaps because he has practiced the fire element technique, his skin is red all over, and even his hair is fiery red. The person on the right is short and fat with a big belly, staring at Yang with a smile. Kai and Kongsaran both had fat faces, and their small eyes were narrowed so they couldn't even see the eyeballs. Seeing this, Kongsaran couldn't help frowning. He naturally knew that these two people were left by Raging Fire Palace to guard the entrance, in case anyone else entered this place. After thinking for a while, he cupped his fists and said, "You two, what do you mean?" The tall warrior on the left didn't say anything when he heard the words, but the fat warrior smiled and said, "Don't you know what it means? Everyone understands, so I won't talk nonsense. Now the entrance has been closed. It seems that there will be no other people coming in. You two think, should we have a short time here with my senior brother, or sit down and chat casually with everyone to pass the time?" Kongsaran's complexion changed, and he said in a low voice, "If you say that, are you planning to let us pass?" The fat warrior clasped his fists and said, "I dare not disobey the orders of the two deputy hall masters, and friends, please don't make things difficult for us. Anyway, we also work together to break the restriction just now, so it's a bit of affection. Hare and dog cooking, it's a good way to play in the Raging Fire Palace." Kongsaran's face was livid, and he said in a deep voice, "If Kong insists on living from now on." The short and fat warrior's face darkened, his squinted eyes glowed coldly, and he said in a cold tone, "If this is the case, then don't blame my brother for being ruthless." Wait. At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly stretched out his hand and shouted. The chunky martial artist immediately turned his gaze to Yang Kai. He thought Yang Kai was trying to say something, but what he could see was a ray of light slashing towards him like an off-string arrow. The short and fat warrior's face changed, and he took a deep breath without even thinking about it. His already short and fat body suddenly became fatter, and his whole body size also skyrocketed. He opened his mouth, and a ball of raging fire spewed out from his mouth, turning into a fire dragon, meeting the light coming from the opposite side. And at the same time as the two of them were fighting, Kongsaran and another tall man also reacted. Kongsaran didn't say a word, and suddenly sacrificed a pestle-shaped secret treasure in his hand. After the source power was poured into it, the pestle-shaped the secret treasure immediately turned into a purple light and shot towards the tall man. Seeing this, the tall man was startled but not panicked. With a flip of his wrist, he grabbed a long knife and shouted loudly, "The knife rolls the river." The long knife was thrown out obliquely, and the light of the knife flashed, scorching power overflowed, and the stream of light like a horse's training, greeted Kongsaran's secret treasure. Rumbling. There was a loud bang. The four Void Kings at the third level rushed into action in this narrow passage, and the power they aroused seemed to break open the entire mountain. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2048 Investigation. There was a booming sound, and the knife skill displayed by the red-haired man in the Raging Fire Palace collided with Kongsaran's secret treasure, shining a dazzling light, and the terrifying energy fluctuations spread to the surroundings. At the same time, Yang Kai and the fat warrior also fought. Although Yang Kai's sneak attack came suddenly, the fat warrior is obviously not an ordinary person. Since he was able to participate in this operation, he was also kept by Zongqing and Lian Yuming. Those who came down to guard the entrance of the cave were naturally the elite of the Raging Fire Palace, who possessed the ability to leapfrog combat. Taking a deep breath, after his body became even fatter, he spit out a fire dragon and sprayed forward, making it almost impossible for Yang Kai to avoid it. After the fire flashed, Yang Kai's figure seemed to be melted away and gradually disappeared. The fat warrior couldn't help frowning. He instinctively felt that Yang Kai shouldn't be killed so easily, but when he looked around, he couldn't see any trace of Yang Kai at all, which made his heart skip a beat, and he couldn't help feeling a little bad a feeling of. At this moment, a strange force suddenly emerged from behind him, and as soon as the force took shape, it enveloped him like a cage. In an instant, he felt that the space around him suddenly became extremely viscous, and a strange force appeared for no reason. A feeling of falling into the swamp, and this force not only affected the flexibility of his body, but even affected the movement of the power in his body. Yu Chang, how is that possible? The fat warrior exclaimed in shock. He is also a martial artist at the Void King's third layer level, and his own field has reached the state of great accomplishment. When facing the enemy, the field will naturally cover his body all the time to guard against accidents. But when the enemy's field was displayed, he suddenly felt that his own field was completely suppressed. The same as the Void King third layer, how could the opponent's domain be so terrifying? Compared with his domain field, it is as ridiculous as a child playing house. And, in the other party's field, there seems to be an extremely weird power, a power that can affect space. He was shocked, bit the tip of his tongue, spurted a mouthful of blood, and at the same time yelled frantically, mobilizing the source power in his body desperately, trying to get rid of the shackles and suppression of this field. There was a cracking sound, and the bones of the fat warrior were rubbing against each other, which made people's teeth sore in their ears. Behind him, Yang Kai saw this, his eyes could not help but turn cold. A long sword leisurely appeared in the palm of his hand, the power in his body poured into the long sword, accompanied by a clear sound of the sword. Yang Kai's body was wrapped in the sword light in the midst of it, it turned into a whirlwind, and the light on the tip of the sword flickered, cutting towards the fat warrior's neck. Before the sword light arrived, an indescribable force enveloped the fat warrior. The fat warrior's figure couldn't help but tremble, and his small eyes that had been squinting suddenly widened, as if seeing a ghost in daylight, with an incredible expression on his face. The light flashed, and Yang Kai reappeared in front of the fat warrior, holding the sword in one hand, and gently flicked a drop of dark red blood on the blade. The fat warrior stood on the spot, staring blankly at Yang Kai, and there was a hooting sound in his throat, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he could only choke out two words, "La." After the words fell, the fat warrior's fat body was like a balloon that was punctured, and quickly shriveled. At the same time, a blood-red trace appeared on his neck, and the blood suddenly spurted out like a fountain. The momentum flew up. With a bang, the fat warrior's headless body fell on its back. You dare to kill my senior brother." On the other side, the red-haired warrior couldn't help but lose his wits and shouted loudly. Compared to his senior brother's death, he couldn't believe that Yang Kai could succeed in such a short period of time. He knew exactly what his senior brother's strength was, but he was an elite among the elites of the Raging Fire Palace. The guy who was also at the third level of the Void King cut off his head in 2 or 3 strikes. While he was shouting, he sucked in cold air swishingly, only feeling chills all over his body. Yang Kai raised his head and said coldly, "So what if you kill him? It's your turn next." Ah! The red-haired warrior was startled, and backed away in shock. Yang Kai sternly shouted, "Brother Kong, don't show mercy." After the words fell, Yang Kai had already wrapped his sword light again, and slashed at the red-haired warrior. Seeing this, Kong Saran also gritted his teeth, urging the power of his secret treasure with all his strength, and attacked the red-haired warrior. Although the strength of the red-haired warrior is not weaker than that fat senior brother, Yang Kai and Kong Saran are not easy to provoke. With the two of them working together, the red-haired warrior can only be beaten, and has no power to fight back. Moreover, due to the terrain, the red-haired warrior couldn't even escape. After half a cup of tea, the red-haired warrior also fell into a pool of blood. Until then, Kong Saran looked him up and down as if he knew Yang Kai again, his eyes were filled with surprise. Although shopkeeper Kong and Yang Kai have known each other for a long time, this is the first time that they have joined forces to fight against the enemy in a real sense. Before this, Kong Saran didn't know that Yang Kai's strength was so strong. Brother Yang's long sword is a Daoyuan level secret treasure, right? Kong Saran looked at the weapon Yang Kai was holding thoughtfully. Yang Kai grinned, nodded and said, "Exactly. This long sword is exactly the one that Han Leng used before, and after Han Leng died, it naturally became Yang Kai's trophy." Although Yang Kai himself did not reach the level of Daoyuanjing, he absorbed and refined so many broken law powers in the 5-color pagoda, so he can use some law powers a little bit, supplemented by this long sword and space secret technique. Killing warriors of the same level is naturally effortless. Brother Yang was able to mobilize the power of the law, and it seems that he is not far away from being promoted, which makes Kong envious. Kong Saran sighed endlessly. Although he is much older than Yang Kai, and it took him much longer to reach the Void King 3rd layer than Yang Kai, but so far he has not been able to touch the threshold of the law, and has been stuck outside the Daoyuan realm. Now compare the two sides, let him at his admiration and frustration. Brother Kong, don't worry, as long as you find Daoyuan pill here, are you afraid you won't be able to advance? Yang Kai casually comforted. Kong Saran's eyes lit up, he nodded and said, "Exactly." Afterwards, the two will pick up the space rings of the dead Raging Fire Palace warriors, and after taking one, they will continue to explore inside. Yang Kai and Kong Saran didn't have time to investigate what was going on inside Gongsunmu's cave. After all, they were blocked by the fat warrior and the red-haired warrior just now. Looking at it now, there is a not-so-spacious corridor in front of it. Around the corridor, I don't know what kind of strange stones are dotted around it, exuding a shining light, so it doesn't look dim. While searching carefully, the two moved forward slowly, but they didn't encounter any danger, and they didn't meet anyone from the Raging Fire Palace. On the way ahead, there were traces of warriors from the Raging Fire Palace walking by, but they were nowhere to be seen, and it was unknown where they went. After about a stick of incense, the two of them suddenly stepped into a spacious stone room. After entering the stone room, looking left and right, Yang Kai couldn't help showing a look of astonishment, because there was no way ahead, and the situation in the stone room was clear at a glance, except for many stone tripods carved with stone, there was nothing else. There are quite a few stone tripods, at least as many as 30. What made Yang Kai feel even more strange was that the people from Raging Fire Palace were not here. "Brother Yang, what's the situation?" Saran was stunned. Yang Kai shook his head, carefully released his divine sense to inspect the stone room, and found that there was no sign of danger, and said, "There is no fork in the road, and the people from the Raging Fire Palace should definitely come here, but Ida's nowhere to be seen. Could it be that there is some kind of teleportation circle here?" When Saran heard it, he felt it made a lot of sense, and immediately said, "Why don't you look for it?" Yang Kai nodded and said, "Brother Kong, I will check this stone room, take a look at the road map and see if you can find a way out." "Okay," Saran responded, took out a piece of yellowed animal skin paper from his space ring, frowned and looked at it. Yang Kai took advantage of this time to carefully search every corner of the stone room. The stone room is not big. After a while, he returned to the original point, scanning the stone tripods back and forth. If there is anything suspicious in this stone room, it is undoubtedly only these stone tripods. But he had also checked carefully with his divine sense just now, and there was nothing strange about the stone cauldron, and it was not a refining material, just an ordinary stone. Looking back at Saran, he saw that he was still checking the animal skin paper, as if he hadn't figured it out yet, so Yang Kai didn't bother him, but walked up to a stone tripod and touched it. At the moment when Yang Kai's hand came into contact with the stone cauldron, there was a strange cracking sound, and at the same time, a hole suddenly opened where Yang Kai was standing. As soon as his body sank, he was about to fall down immediately. Yang Kai was slightly startled, but he didn't panic. He turned the strength in his body and wanted to fly into the air. But what surprised Yang Kai happened. When he was running his power, there was a huge and incomparable suction force from his feet. Before he could fly, he was directly sucked into the black hole on the ground. This time, Yang Kai really changed his face, and only had time to shout out, and the whole person fell straight down. Above the head, the originally cracked black hole also closed up again at this moment, plunging him into darkness. "Brother Yang." On the side, Saran was shocked when he heard the movement, and quickly got up and rushed towards this side, but it was still too late, and when he arrived at the place, Yang Kai had disappeared. Staring at the place where Yang Kai disappeared, Saran's expression changed several times, and finally he gritted his teeth and reached out to grab the stone cauldron that Yang Kai had touched before. Nothing happened. The cracking of the ground did not happen as imagined, and Saran tried several times before he was sure that his actions were useless. As a last resort, he could only turn his gaze to the other stone tripods, testing them one by one, until the 7th stone tripod was tested, a crack appeared under his feet, and the whole person fell downward like Yang Kai. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2049 Strange Test. Chapter 2049 Strange Test. Surrounded by darkness, Yang Kai could only feel that his body was constantly falling downwards, as if there was no end to it, and when he looked up, there was no light at all. Yang Kai frowned slightly, although he was a little surprised by the situation in front of him, but he was not too panicked. What happened in the stone room before made him want to understand one thing. Those stone cauldrons should be the medium to trigger the mechanism, so he can't use his spiritual sense to find out any clues. Only when he touches it, will the mechanism trap in the stone room be opened. Thinking about it this way, the people in the Raging Fire Palace should have fallen into such a trap, that's why the stone room above is empty. I just don't know if Saran will follow, and I don't know if there are any fighters from Raging Fire Palace. He didn't dare to be careless, and he was running quietly with all his strength, ready to kill if he found something wrong. Not long after, a ray of light suddenly appeared below, and Yang Kai quickly released his consciousness to sweep down, and after a while, his expression became weird. Because there is still a stone room below, but it is a bit different from what he imagined. There are no warriors from the Raging Fire Palace in the stone room, and it is also empty. After a while, Yang Kai fell into this stone room. Looking around, the stone room was empty, there was no stone tripod here. Before Yang Kai could take a closer look, there was an unusual energy fluctuation in the stone room, and immediately, a stone platform-like thing suddenly appeared in the center of the stone room. The stone platform rose slowly, and there was a rumbling sound. Yang Kai watched vigilantly, and waited until the stone platform was completely stable, but did not find any danger. He frowned and walked slowly towards the stone platform. Come to the front of the stone platform, pick up the steps, and soon reach the top of the stone platform. Dharma circle. Yang Kai raised his brows, looking in surprise at a mysterious pattern emerging from the flat surface of the stone platform, and from this pattern, he faintly felt a wave of space power. Teleportation circle. Yang Kai was very surprised, but in this way, he can be sure that if the magic circle on the stone platform is activated, it should be able to teleport him to another place. However, this teleportation circle is very different from what he has learned, so Yang Kai didn't dare to do it rashly, but paid close attention to it, trying to see some clues. After looking at it carefully, Yang Kai found a line of small characters obscured by dust under the magic circle on the stone platform. He carefully stretched out his hand to brush away the dust, and the line of small words was immediately printed in front of his eyes. The power of the fire element can be activated by pouring it into the formation. Yang Kai muttered, frowning. This is obviously a teleportation circle, but why does it need to be filled with fire power? This made Yang Kai a little confused, and what is the significance of such a special magic circle appearing in this stone room? After thinking for a while, Yang Kai didn't want to understand, so he stopped thinking about it. He does have the power of fire, whether it is the fire of consciousness or the sword energy of fire. Both belong to the power of fire, but he did not rush to activate the magic circle, but stood still and waited quietly. He wanted to wait for Kong Saran, and act together when he came down. But to Yang Kai's disappointment, he waited on the spot for half an hour, but there was no sign of Kong Saran. Kong Saran must have seen the falling scene when he touched the stone cauldron organ before. With Kong Saran's character, he should not ignore himself, so Yang Kai is sure that he will definitely touch the stone cauldron organ. But until Kong Saran was nowhere to be seen, there was only one explanation: Kong Saran fell into another stone room. There should be more than one stone room here, otherwise, when I fell, I wouldn't lose sight of any of the disciples of Raging Fire Palace. Perhaps, all those who fell were separated and could not act together at all. Of course, this is just Yang Kai's speculation based on the current situation, and he cannot verify whether it is true or not. Since he couldn't wait for Kong Saran, Yang Kai could only act alone. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, stretched out his hand to the magic circle in front, urged the fire power in his body, and poured it in. The scorching breath emerged, and the whole stone room suddenly trembled, and the lines of the magic circle on the stone platform suddenly lit up. Seeing this, Yang Kai knew that there was nothing wrong. This magic circle really needs the power of the fire element to activate, and now he is urging his own power of the fire element even more frantically. Rumbling. After a series of sounds passed, the magic circle on the stone platform shone with dazzling light, wrapping Yang Kai in its entirety. After the light dissipated, Yang Kai had disappeared. This is. Yang Kai turned his head and looked around, and found that the place he was in was still a stone room. If it wasn't for the feeling of teleportation just now, Yang Kai might think that he had never moved. What the hell is this trick? Yang Kai frowned, puzzled. It is understandable that there are many prohibition formations arranged in the caves of ordinary ancestors. There is no warrior's cave that does not have these things, but the cave in front of him is a bit strange. There are many identical stone rooms, and the one he passed, the first stone room, only needs to pour the power of the fire element into the magic circle to pass through safely. It is not difficult at all, and there is no danger at all, but I don't know what is so special about this stone room. Just as he was wondering, the familiar buzzing sound sounded again, and the next moment, Yang Kai found a stone platform that was the same as before in the center of the stone room. He frowned, and could only slowly climb up the stone platform with the mentality of being safe when he came. Looking around, Yang Kai couldn't help but let out a sigh. Because the stone platform did not have the magic circle route this time, but instead there were many grooves. In those grooves, there are different kinds of medicinal materials. These medicinal materials have been preserved by special methods, and they have been preserved for thousands of years, and they are still not corrupted, and the medicinal properties are not lost, and they look like they have just been picked. Yang Kai took a look and found that these medicinal materials were extremely remote, only 2 or 3 out of 10 of them he could recognize, and he didn't know the rest. Immediately, he turned his attention to the lower part of the stone platform, and sure enough, he saw a line of small characters there, brushed off the dust, and Yang Kai stared at the line of small characters and read, "Choose 15 kinds of poisonous herbs, the formation can be activated." Choose 15 kinds. Yang Kai was taken aback, and then carefully counted the number of herbs on the stone platform, and suddenly found that there were only 25 kinds of herbs added together. In other words, among these herbs, most of them are poisonous. What is the owner of this cave going to do? Yang Kai was full of doubts that he had given himself such a difficult problem. Shaking his head, he could only concentrate on the 25 herbs in front of him. Although the small characters on the stone platform did not explain what the consequences would be if he chose the wrong one, Yang Kai also knew that he could not try it lightly. This cave, no matter whether it is the cave left by Gongsunmu or not, is definitely a strong Emperor Senior realm all during his lifetime. Yang Kai couldn't guess the means of Emperor Senior stage. Once he chooses the wrong one, he may end up falling here. He didn't dare to joke about his wealth and life, so his expression was extremely solemn. Well, this sky-heart orchid is poisonous, and so is this filthy shade grass. Yang Kai looked at it for a while, and first took out the few herbs he recognized from the groove, and put them aside. He was also cautious during the whole process, but he didn't touch any restrictions after taking out the medicinal materials. It seemed that he had chosen the right one. After a short while, he selected 3 poisonous herbs. As for the rest of the medicinal materials, he didn't know any of them. On the one hand, it was related to his shallow knowledge of the properties of the astral world, and on the other hand, it was also related to the remoteness of the herbs placed here. Even if alchemists from the star realm came here, they would not dare to say that they could know all of these herbs. However, as an alchemist, Yang Kai has naturally studied medicinal materials, and the pharmacology and medicinal properties of various medicinal materials have their own laws and characteristics, so even if he does not recognize most of the medicinal materials, it does not prevent him from judging whether these medicinal materials are toxic or not. Going to those herbs and sniffing them carefully, Yang Kai quickly picked out a few more poisonous herbs. The toxicity of these medicinal materials is very subtle, and ordinary people can't judge it through the breath, and only alchemists who have been dealing with medicinal materials for many years, or people who have researched medicinal materials can have such abilities. After a lot of tossing, Yang Kai selected another 7 or 8 plants, but the number of 15 species was still half as much. However, the remaining medicinal materials cannot be judged by breath to determine whether they are toxic. Yang Kai thought about it, and felt that he could only taste it himself, and judge it through his tongue and his own feelings. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, reached out and pinched a little bit from the petals of a light blue flower, and put it in his mouth to chew. The next moment, Yang Kai's complexion changed, and his face suddenly turned pale. While chewing the petals, a heart-piercing chill suddenly filled his mouth, almost freezing his tongue. Panicked Yang Kai hastily circulated his power, which could be resolved. It's powerful, but it's not poisonous. After a while, Yang Kai looked at the light blue flower with fear, not knowing what kind of medicinal material this flower actually contains such a huge coldness. Now that it's confirmed, he can only turn his attention to the next medicinal herb. After a while, Yang Kai sat cross-legged, his face was blue and purple, his whole expression was distorted to the extreme, as if he was enduring a huge torture. After a full stick of incense, he opened his mouth to spit out, a jet-black arrow of blood spewed out from his mouth, and his breath became weaker. The poison is so fierce. Yang Kai's face was full of lingering fear. He just chewed a little bit of the poison. If he really swallowed the herb completely, he would die immediately. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2050 Karst Cave. Although these herbal medicines placed in the grooves of the stone platform were tasteless, their toxicity was so fierce that Yang Kai was speechless. But if he wanted to leave this ghostly place, he could only complete the requirements described in the small characters on the stone platform. Yongkai gritted his teeth and tasted the unknown herbs again. It took him half a day to taste all the medicinal materials that he didn't recognize, and he couldn't be sure whether they were poisonous or not. All kinds of pain and torture are simply inhumane. If it weren't for Yongkai's sturdy physique and strong recovery ability, even if he was not poisoned to death, he would have lost most of his life. Even so, he couldn't make up the number of 15. Why are there only 13 types? Yongkai stood in front of the stone platform, his brows congealed into a ball, with a puzzled look on his face. Since the owner of this cave has left such a difficult problem for those who enter to solve it, he will definitely not play tricks on purpose. In other words, among the 25 kinds of medicinal materials, 15 kinds are indeed poisonous. But Yongkai has used all 3 methods of looking, smelling and tasting, and he can only confirm that 13 kinds are poisonous, and the remaining 2 can't be found anyway. How did that happen? His eyes swept over the grooves of the stone platform one by one, but he couldn't find the remaining 2 kinds of them no matter what. Just when Yongkai was at a loss for what to do with the stone platform, all warriors who entered the cave were facing the same problem. The warriors in the Raging Fire Palace, basically this breed novel YBDU. In the book, they all practiced the fire element kung fu, so the first stone room was not difficult for them at all. They also went to the stone room like Yongkai. The power of the fire element was poured into the platform, and it was teleported to the second stone room. Even comprehension, it also easily passed the test of the first stone chamber. But now, everyone is stumped by the problem of the second stone room. In a certain stone room, a disciple of Raging Fire Palace looked at the 25 kinds of medicinal materials and scratched his head for a while. He is not an alchemist, and he doesn't even know what these herbs are, let alone how to distinguish between poisonous and non-toxic. After waiting and watching for a long time, he selected a few of them that were definitely poisonous, and the rest could no longer be distinguished. Seeing the passage of time, the disciple of Raging Fire Palace gritted his teeth. Randomly take out a medicinal herb from the groove. And the moment he took out the medicinal material, the whole stone room suddenly buzzed, and the stone platform in front of him sank at an extremely fast speed, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The warrior looked startled, and hurriedly floated back. Run with all your strength. In case of any eventuality. Buzzing, the sound came out. In the stone room, a little light suddenly flickered, and the light was densely packed. Covering all directions, there are as many as several hundred in a rough count. At first glance, it looks like the eyeballs of ferocious beasts, which makes people shudder. The next moment, these flickering rays of light trembled slightly, and all of them bombarded the warrior, and terrifying energy fluctuations came out leisurely. Seeing this, the warrior of Raging Fire Palace immediately showed a look of despair on his face, and he only had time to roar before being drowned by the countless rays of light. After a while, when the light dissipated, the disciple of Raging Fire Palace had disappeared in place. There was only a pool of dark red blood and broken pieces of cloth on the ground to prove that this person existed before. Not only this disciple of Raging Fire Hall suffered bad luck, those warriors who chose the wrong medicinal materials all touched the restraint in the stone room, and were killed on the spot in one breath, leaving no bones left. In another stone room, comprehension solemnly took out a plant of herbs from the groove of the stone platform in front of him. After waiting for a while, he found that he was safe and sound, and he couldn't help but let out a long breath. Although he is not an alchemist, but is the shopkeeper of the Spirit Pill Workshop, he is also a star warrior born and bred. In terms of knowledge and experience of herbal medicine, he is much more than Yongkai today. People who deal with medicinal materials. So although the test in the second stone room was somewhat difficult for him, it was not hopeless to pass. In another stone room, Lian Yuming, the deputy head of the Raging Fire Hall, looked at the 25 kinds of medicinal materials on the stone platform in front of him, and unexpectedly quickly selected more than 10 kinds of them in one go. He selected a few types, and made up the number of 13, and the medicinal materials he chose were exactly the same as the types of medicinal materials that Yongkai had worked so hard to determine. Only 2 remain. Lian Yuming's eyes were like lightning, and he was shuttling through the remaining medicinal materials, searching for the knowledge he had mastered in the medicinal herbs in his mind. The 2 medicinal materials below. And when he took out the last 2 medicinal ingredients, the place under his feet suddenly lit up, and a teleportation circle emerged leisurely, teleporting him to another place, and the stone platform in the stone room also sank slowly at the same time. Down. In the stone room, Yang Kai still had a sad expression on his face. In the previous period of time, he carefully identified the remaining medicinal materials again, but he was still unable to determine which two were poisonous. Just as he was at a loss, suddenly, as if he remembered something, his eyes lit up. Immediately, he quickly took off some of the remaining herbs, and then combined them two by two, kneading and grinding them carefully. After a while, when he combined two of the herbs and kneaded them together, a pungent and spicy smell suddenly permeated from his fingertips. Feel the burning heat. Yang Kai practiced his profound arts, dispelled the discomfort in his heart, looked happy, laughed and said, "You are right. In this world, some medicinal materials themselves are non-toxic, but if they are mixed with some special medicinal materials, they may become highly poisonous. It is not uncommon in the lives of ordinary people." Yang Kai didn't think of this level at first, but now this situation proves that his idea is correct. With a determined face, he took the two reactive medicinal materials out of the groove and put them aside. The next moment, a teleportation circle appeared under his feet, and after the light flashed, Yang Kai's eyes went dark, and the feeling of teleportation struck again. After he stabilized his figure again, he turned his head and looked around, and suddenly showed a look of surprise, nodded and said, "That's true." The place he was in was still a stone room, no different from the stone rooms he had visited before, and there was also a stone platform in the middle. At this point, Yang Kai had already vaguely guessed about the function of this place, and judging from the various clues before, it is very likely that this place is really the cave of the alchemy master Gongsun Mu. He suppressed the joy in his heart, stepped forward, and came to the stone platform. Taking a closer look, I found that there were 3 identical medicinal herbs placed on the stone platform. Judging from the aura emitted by the medicinal herbs, the quality should not be high, only about the grade of returning to the void. Stretching out his hand to brush away the dust on the stone platform, Yang Kai looked at the kid on the stone platform and immediately understood the test content of this stone room. It was actually to condense the liquid medicine. As long as the purity reaches a certain level, the teleportation circle in the stone chamber can be activated. Concentrating the medicinal liquid is nothing to Yang Kai. Since he practiced alchemy, he has done thousands of times to condense the medicinal liquid, and he also has the special power of divine consciousness fire, which can make it easier condensate the liquid medicine and remove various impurities in the liquid medicine. And it's not that difficult to condense the medicinal liquid of a void-returning grade medicinal material. With this thought in mind, he no longer hesitated, activated his own fire of consciousness, and wrapped one of the medicinal herbs. After a while, that medicinal herb turned into a drop of green liquid, with impurities constantly flying out of it, making the green liquid even clearer. Because Yang Kai already had some guesses about the various tests here, so Yang Kai spared no effort when condensing the medicinal liquid, and played it perfectly. When he condensed all the 3 herbs into liquid medicine and put them back in the groove of the stone platform, the familiar teleportation circle reappeared. For the next few days, Yang Kai spent in one stone room after another, and the tests given in each stone room were different. There were those who tested the alchemy time to draw the spirit array, and those who needed to refine the spirit pill. Yes, there are tests to grasp. There are all kinds of tests, all kinds of strange things. But all the content cannot be separated from the word alchemy. By this time, Yang Kai was completely sure of the previous guess in his heart. This is definitely Gongsun Mu's test of the latecomers, mastery of alchemy. He is a master of alchemy himself, so it is not surprising that he will test this aspect. As a generation of alchemy masters, he naturally hoped that his relics could be obtained by fellow alchemists instead of being taken away by some insignificant people. Many previous tests can completely determine whether a person is a qualified one. Alchemist. Perhaps, Gongsun Mu still wants to find a successor for himself. In the stone room, Yang Kai put his newly refined spirit pill into the groove of the stone platform. After a while, the familiar feeling of teleportation hit, the light flashed, and he disappeared again. When Yang Kai regained his vision and looked around for a while, he couldn't help but look happy. Because the place where I am now is finally not that kind of unchanging stone room, but in a corridor. The tunnel was extremely dry, and there was a faint gleam of flames and weird grunts coming from the front, and the scorching breath permeated the surroundings, making people feel like falling into magma for no reason. Yang Kai urged the power to protect his body, and walked towards the place where the firelight came from. After a while, he entered a cave. This karst cave does not know how many feet underground it exists, and there are no artificial traces, it seems to be formed naturally. In front of that, a group of red flames shone. Yang Kai squinted and found that the flames turned out to be a piece of flowing magma. The magma gathered into a pool, and from time to time 1 or 2 bubbles would emerge from below, burst open, and splashed all over. Chapter 2051 Jade Slips. The karst cave has a large area, and there are other things besides the magma pool. Before Yang Kai had time to look around carefully, Lu Yan's voice suddenly sounded in his ears, "Master." Hearing the shout, he had a thought, and immediately released Lu Yan. Lu Yan did not turn into a human form, but maintained the form of a fire bird, quietly suspended in front of Yang Kai, a pair of eyes staring at the magma pool in front of him, showing a hint of longing in his spirit. "Is there anything below that is useful to you?" Yang Kai asked immediately after realizing this. Lu Yan passed on the message and said, "It seems to be there, and it is quite useful, I'll go and have a look." While speaking, he spread his wings, flew directly to the top of the magma pool, and plunged into it. "Be careful," Yang Kai hurriedly warned behind him, but Lu Yan had long since disappeared. He couldn't help shaking his head slowly, and only then began to look around. Although the area of this karst cave is not small, it is empty inside, so after looking over it, the situation is clear at a glance. Soon, Yang Kai's attention was attracted to a certain place. Over there seemed to be a human-shaped object sitting there cross-legged. Yang Kai frowned, and released his divine sense. After some investigation, it was confirmed that the human-shaped object was just a skeleton, without the slightest vitality and breath. It should have died very soon. It's been a long time. If there is no guess, this should be Gongsunmu's corpse. A generation of alchemy masters, 10 great emperors Zun Miao, the 3rd disciple of the Great Pill, who was supposed to be a strong man who could command the wind and rain in the star world, but now he fell into a tragic end in a small place like Yuanding Mountain, which made Yang Kai can't help but sigh, and don't know why Gongsunmu offended Emperor Miao Dan, and was expelled from the gate wall. His fate was so bleak that there was no one to collect his body in the end. After settling his mind, Yang Kai walked towards the skeleton, and when he stood in front of him, he clasped his fists and bowed slightly. No matter how you say Gongsunmu is a senior, he is also a master of alchemy. Even if he dies here, he is enough to accept Yang Kai's gift. After getting up, Yang Kai's eyes were immediately attracted by the things in front of Gongsunmu. Before Gongsunmu died, he should have stayed here all the time, but not far in front of him, there was something in the shape of a small pot. But the size is much smaller, and under this small pot, there is still the ground fire attracted by the magic circle, which is burning the bottom of the pot. What Yang Kai cares about is not the small pot, but the contents of the pot. In this small pot, there is actually a pot of thick medicinal soup. The portion is not much, only about 1 bowl, covering the bottom of the pot. From time to time, a bubble would appear in the medicine soup, and the bubble would burst, emitting multicolored rays of light. At the same time, a strange fragrance would diffuse out, filling the entire cave. Smelling this scent, Yang Kai's expression changed. Because this scent is very familiar, it seems to be exactly what he smelled outside Yuanding Mountain. At that time outside Yuanding Mountain, so many warriors were attracted here because of the vision that appeared in Yuanding Mountain, the burst of multicolored rays of light, the strange fragrance that filled the heaven and earth, everything was very similar to what was in front of us. Yang Kai suddenly showed a thoughtful look in front of him. From this point of view, the vision of Yuanding Mountain is not because of a genius or treasure that is about to mature, but because of this pot of medicinal soup. Yang Kai suddenly became interested in this pot of medicinal soup. Although he was 80% sure that this thick medicinal soup was definitely not poisonous, and even had great benefits for warriors, but before he understood it, he would not dare to take it rashly. Turning his eyes, Yang Kai quickly found a jade slip in front of Gongsunmu's skeleton. The jade slips seemed to be placed in front of him by Gongsunmu before his death. Zhou Zheng was incomparable, and it seemed that he was going to read it for the latecomers. Yang Kai first checked with his spiritual sense, and after confirming that there was no danger, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the jade slip. The moment he held the jade slip, a sudden change occurred. Gongsunmu, who was supposed to be dead for an unknown number of years and had already turned into a skeleton, suddenly moved, and immediately after that, 2 spots of green light appeared in the sockets of his eyes. The light flashed away, and suddenly condensed into a single light. The group shot towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai was startled, and quickly floated back, while using the power in his body to protect himself. But what shocked him most was that the ray of light ignored his own protective power, directly hit his chest, and disappeared in an instant. In an instant, Yang Kai was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat, and quickly checked himself with his spiritual sense, but found that he was not injured at all, and there seemed to be no discomfort in his body. And the bones of Gongsun Mu on the opposite side fell apart after doing all this, as if they had exhausted their last strength. The countless bones became as fragile as flour, and many of them fell to pieces. After a while, everything returned to calm. Yang Kai held the jade slip in his hand, and stood there with an ugly expression. Just now, he was definitely hit by a restriction imposed by Gongsun Mu, but even with his divine sense, he couldn't find out clearly. Obviously, the restriction was extremely hidden, and it was beyond his ability to solve it. After pondering for a long time, Yang Kai gritted his teeth and sat down, immersed in the jade slip with his spiritual consciousness, and carefully examined it. He felt that since the jade slips were left by Gongsun Mu on purpose, there must be some clues that might allow him to know what happened just now. Scanning with the divine sense, the content in the jade slip was immediately clear. Yu Gongsun Mu, the 3 disciples of Emperor Miao Dan, young and helpless, begging for a living, meeting the emperor, never giving up, accepting him as a disciple, teaching the way of alchemy. The jade slips were indeed left by Gongsun Mu, and the cave was indeed owned by Gongsun Mu. The information in the jade slips was very complicated. At first, it was just Gongsun Mu's memories. This guy is an unfortunate person. When he was young, he tasted the warmth and bitterness of the world, and almost starved to death. At the same time, he was a lucky guy who was favored by Emperor Miao Dan and accepted as his disciple. He followed the emperor and learned the art of alchemy while practicing surgery. Yu's aptitude surpasses those of the 2 senior brothers. The emperor loves him very much and teaches him all he has, and he has no secrets. Yu's alchemy skills also quickly surpassed the 2 senior brothers. Yu became famous when he was young, arrogant, and he didn't know how to restrain himself. The 2 senior brothers persuaded him at that time. Yu was ridiculed, and there was a rift between the brothers. At the age of 300, Yu was promoted to Emperor Zunjing, and at the same time he was promoted to Emperor-level alchemy master, who was famous in the star realm. Yu was not satisfied, and wanted to surpass his master in the way of alchemy, so he studied the way of human alchemy, which ruined his life and hurt the sky. Together, the big brother reported to the master. The master was furious, and ordered Yu to stop the study, but Yu refused to accept it, and agreed on the surface, but remained the same in private, and it was out of control. At the age of 350, Yu Ji's secret was once again revealed by the senior brother. Yu was furious and beat the senior brother until he was seriously injured. The master couldn't bear it anymore and drove Yu out of the gate and found Yuanding Mountain. Living in seclusion. In the jade slips, Gongsun Mu's life is almost recorded. According to his own statement, his aptitude in alchemy is almost comparable to that of Emperor Miao Dan. And study the way of human pill. Gongsun Mu didn't say what the Tao of human alchemy was, but the meaning revealed between the lines made Yang Kai feel that this should be a very cruel alchemy technique. And the reason why he was expelled from the door wall obviously has a lot to do with the Tao of human pill. Of course, part of the reason is that he shot his senior brother, and even severely injured his senior brother. After being expelled from the gate wall, Gongsun Mu settled down in Yuanding Mountain. After undergoing a great change, his mind seemed to have changed a little, and he realized his mistake. He wanted to return to the sect of Emperor Miao Dan many times, but he never saw the face of Emperor Miao Dan, and finally Yu died alone in his cave. The jade slips not only contain this information, but also contain Gongsun Mu's own understanding of the way of alchemy. It can be said that this jade slip itself is Gongsun Mu's alchemy handbook, which is of great value to any alchemist. All kinds of alchemy formulas, all kinds of alchemy formations, techniques, methods of collecting alchemy. There are so many kinds of alchemy formulas, any alchemist will be ecstatic if they see the contents. It's just that Gongsun Mu also explained in the jade slip that everything in it is the crystallization of his own life's wisdom, and has nothing to do with everything taught by Emperor Miao Dan. Without the permission of Emperor Miao Dan, he dared not and would not leave those knowledge in the jade slips. Yu doesn't know who you are, but since you have passed the many tests set by Yu and got this jade slip, it means that you are also an alchemist. Now, Yu Ji's mantle can be regarded as successor. Since the jade slip is in hand, it means you should have been hit by Yu's withered soul seal. The withered soul seal will not cause any harm within 100 years, but after 100 years, it can devour your soul. There are only two ways to get rid of this seal, one is to cultivate beyond me, and the other is to find my master and ask him to act. I hope you can see the master within 100 years, hand over this jade slip to him, and ask him to take me back to the gate wall. As compensation, you can take the wanbao herbal soup that you worked so hard to cook for the rest of his life. You will experience many of its benefits in the future. The content of the jade slip is gone now. After Yang Kai read it, he squeezed the jade slip, let out a long breath, and let go of the worries in his heart. At the very least, he now knows exactly what trick he was hit just now. The dry soul seal, presumably, should be a kind of restriction issued by Gongsun Mu before he died. As long as someone gets the jade slip, the dry soul seal will be activated immediately and penetrate into the body of the person who took the jade slip. And this mark will not cause any harm within 100 years, but it will devour the soul after 100 years. 100 years is not short, so Yang Kai doesn't have to worry about anything for the time being. As long as his cultivation level surpasses that of Gongsun Mu within 100 years, he can remove this withered soul seal. Although Yang Kai doesn't know what kind of cultivation level Gongsun Mu was before he died, it should be Emperor Senior stage. 100 years Emperor Senior realm, Yang Kai still has confidence in himself. He is afraid that Gongsun Mu is a third-layer Emperor Senior realm. If this is the case, then he must achieve the position of Great Emperor, in order to rely on his own ability to lift the withered soul mark. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AC plus or minus a degree of diaresis T. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2052 Wanbao Herbal Soup. After thinking for a while, Yang Kai solemnly put the jade slip away. He is also free and easy, knowing that it is useless to worry about the withered soul mark now, so he simply doesn't think about it. He turned his gaze back to the small pot of medicinal soup. According to the information left in the jade slips, this small pot of medicine soup is the wanbao medicine soup that Gongsun Mu spent the last half of his life brewing. Yang Kai doesn't know at all. But since this medicinal soup is compensation for the dry soul seal, it is definitely beneficial to take it. Moreover, Gongsun Mu's Dongfu has existed for decades, and the time since his death is definitely not short. In other words, this pot of medicinal soup has been boiled here for at least 1 or 2,000 years. It is also thanks to the power of the magic circle to draw the fire from the ground, and it is continuously boiled here, otherwise this pot of medicinal soup may have become waste product long ago. Yuanding Mountain has always been extremely desolate, and has never been noticed by warriors. This should be done on purpose by Gongsun Mu. The Emperor Senior Realm expert used some means to isolate Yuanding Mountain's spiritual energy from leaking out, and created a little camouflage to make people misunderstand. I thought it was a barren mountain, but it was actually not difficult. The vision of Xiaoguang blooming and the strange fragrance appearing, attracted the warriors who saw this scene to come here. And that vision was obviously caused by this pot of medicinal soup. When a heaven-defying genius and earth treasure mature, there will be a phenomenon of heaven and earth, and when an extremely high-end secret treasure is successfully refined, it may also cause a phenomenon of heaven and earth. The vision of Yuanding Mountain is obviously due to the successful boiling of this pot of medicinal soup. Since it has been brewed successfully, and it is of great benefit to oneself, Yang Kai naturally has no reason to let it go. He sat cross-legged in front of the small cauldron, and with a few bursts of force, he cut off the power of the earth fire absorbed by the magic circle, and immediately picked up the small cauldron with his hands, and brought the pot of wanbao medicine soup in front of him. Observing at close range, Yang Kai found that this pot of medicinal soup was extremely thick, but it was crystal clear, without any impurities in it. You could see the bottom at a glance, and the multicolored bubbles emerged from the bottom of the medicinal soup, which was quite miraculous. The thick aroma is tangy, making Yang Kai refreshed for a while. He doesn't know what kind of language to use to describe the aroma of the tip of his nose. This kind of strange fragrance, even the most pure and holy virgin body fragrance is incomparable. Yang Kai has never smelled this kind of aftertaste endless fragrance. Along the way cultivated to the level of Void King 3-layer, Yang Kai has not tried the desire of the tongue for a long time. With his strength and strong physical fitness, he does not need to eat anything, but the aroma is in his nose after that. He had a rare feeling of twitching his index finger, as if he had been hungry for many days and hadn't eaten, wishing he could swallow this small pot. Gritting his teeth, Yang Kai brought the small pot to his mouth, opened his mouth wide and drank it. Strange to say, this pot of myriad treasure medicine soup seems to be extremely hot, but it is not hot at all after the mouth, but the temperature is suitable, and it is full of fragrance, more delicious than anything Yang Kai has ever eaten. There was only one bowl of wanbao medicine soup, which he drank in one gulp, leaving nothing behind. After a while, Yang Kai let out a loud belch, and all he spit out was colorful rays of light. Before he could savor the taste of this wanbao medicine soup carefully, his lower abdomen suddenly became scorching hot, and streams of heat, like substance, centered on the abdomen, quickly shuttled through the limbs and bones, causing a burst of numbness and itching feeling. Yang Kai's face changed, and he quickly stuffed the small pot in his hand into the space ring, closed his eyes and concentrated, held his breath, and silently used his own profound arts. And just after Yang Kai took the small pot of the 10,000 treasures medicine soup away from the original place for 10 breaths, the entire Yuanding mountain suddenly trembled with a humming sound. The rumbling sound was deafening, the ground shook and the gravel rolled down, the mountain peak tilted, and the entire Yuanding mountain suddenly split into countless pieces and quickly sank downward. Inside the mountain, among the countless identical stone rooms, the expressions of the surviving warriors all changed drastically. Just when they were suspicious and didn't know what happened, all the teleportation circles in the stone room were activated, and in an instant, the warriors who were still alive disappeared in place. The next moment, a dozen or so miles around Yuanding Mountain, strange and inexplicable figures emerged, and everyone's expressions were shocked. "Brother Lian, have you been reported too?" Zhang Qing, the vice master of Raging Fire Palace, swept his eyes, and immediately saw Lian Yuming, who was frowning tightly, and hurriedly shouted. Hearing the shout, Lian Yuming turned his head to look at Zhang Qing, and found that the other party was also here, then nodded in surprise and said, "Yes, it seems that you were also sent out." "Exactly." Zhang Qing looked solemnly, looking at Yuanding Mountain, which was shaking violently, and asked suspiciously, "What happened inside? Why did everyone get out?" Lian Yuming thought for a while and asked, "Brother Zhang, did you come across a stone room after you went in?" "That's right. They are all some weird tests, which seem to be related to alchemy. By the way, Brother Lian, you are proficient in alchemy. Those tests shouldn't be difficult for you, right?" Hearing this, Lian Yuming slowly shook his head and said, "The old man has only passed the 5th stone room, and I don't know what benefits will be gained after passing all the tests, but from this point of view, the owner of this cave should be an alchemist." Hearing this, Zhang Qing thought for a while, nodded and said, "Brother Lian is right. If that's the case, you can ask other disciples if they have benefited." While speaking, Zhang Qing turned his head and looked around. His expression changed only after he realized that only half of his elite disciples were left. Yudi, his eyes fixed on a figure not far away, and he said in surprise, "It's you." Not far away, Saran looked helpless. The moment he had a movement in Yuanding Mountain, he was also teleported out, and he happened to be caught in the middle of many disciples of Raging Fire Palace, and he didn't dare to act rashly, so as not to cause misunderstandings by others. Neng smiled apologetically and cupped his fists. Saran, the treasurer of Fenggalan City Lingdanfeng, has met the 2 deputy hall masters. Lingdanfeng. Lian Yuming narrowed his eyes when he heard the words, the Lingdanfeng of Ziwen Chamber of Commerce. Exactly. While Saran nodded, he breathed a sigh of relief. It was really helpless for him to reveal his identity at this time. After all, his fist is not as big as others, so he can only use the name of Ziwen Chamber of Commerce to intimidate him, the other party. Sure enough, after learning about Saran's background, Zhang Qing and Lian Yuming glanced at each other, restraining their original hostility, and the former said, "Zhang of Lingdanfeng knew about it, so it turns out that your excellency is Lingdan shopkeeper Kong of the square, disrespectful." "Vice President Zhang, you are being polite." Saran replied calmly. "Shopkeeper Kong, do you know what happened in Yuanding Mountain?" Zhang Qing asked in a deep voice. Saran shook his head, and said, "Kong is also confused and doesn't know. I remember shopkeeper Kong had a friend by his side before, where is that person now?" Lian Yuming asked thoughtfully. Hearing this, Saran's face darkened, he glanced in the direction of Yuanding Mountain, and sighed. "Since Brother Yang failed to show up here, it must be because something happened inside. I think your palace seems to be broken too. Many disciples have been lost, and the internal test of Yuanding Mountain is actually not easy." He really thought that Yang Kai had fallen in Yuanding Mountain. After all, even Zhang Qing and Lian Yuming, 2 Dao Origin Realm powerhouses, had been teleported out. It is natural to imagine what will happen to those who have not been teleported out. For a while, Saran couldn't help feeling a little sad. On the one hand because he couldn't find the Daoyuan Dan he needed in this Yuanding mountain, and on the other hand because of Yang Kai's accidental fall. Zhang Qing and Lian Yuming looked at each other and nodded slightly. They didn't see any falsehood from Kong Saran's demeanor, and they didn't have the idea of AA entangled with him. Zhang Qing said, "In this case, shopkeeper Kang's condolences are changing, please go back, this Yuandingshan anyway, it is within the sphere of influence of my raging fire palace, I will search again later." Kong Saran couldn't hear such an obvious order to chase away guests. After a long sigh, Chang Zongqing and Lian Yuming clasped their fists, turned around and flew towards the direction of Fenggalan City. A moment later, with a loud noise that shook the sky and the earth, the entire Yuanding mountain collapsed completely. After everything calmed down, Zhang Qing and Lian Yuming led the remaining disciples of Raging Fire Palace to search the ruins of Yuanding Mountain. Unfortunately, they searched here for 2 full months and almost moved the entire collapsed mountain. Empty, and still nothing. Instead, they found the bodies of several disciples who died tragically. 2 months later, the people in the Temple of Raging Fire had to evacuate here. I don't know how many feet deep underground, in the cave, Yang Kai's roar like a wounded beast is constantly heard. If anyone can hear it, I'm afraid they will be scared and flee here immediately. The medicinal power of the myriad treasures medicine soup was powerful and continuous, and after drinking it, it turned into a stream of pure power, colliding with Yang Kai's flesh and limbs. After the meridians and flesh and blood in the body were eroded by the medicinal power, they continued to become tougher and more powerful, the meridians were widened, and the flesh and blood were reshaped. Yang Kai was shaking violently, every inch of flesh and blood, every inch of skin, even there is a numb feeling coming from the internal organs and bones, as if tens of thousands of ants are devouring the body, and it is as if they have suffered the most painful torture in the world. The skin on his body cracked little by little, and golden blood flowed from the inside, gradually congealing into blood coffee. In addition to the blood coffee, it was once again covered by the newly flowing golden blood. Gradually, Yang Kai's whole body seemed to be wrapped in a layer of golden blood cocoon. From the outside, he could not be seen at all, only a strong heartbeat could be heard, hammering like a drum with. I don't know how long this situation lasted, it seemed to be countless years, and it seemed to be just a moment. As time passed, Yang Kai's howl from the blood cocoon gradually weakened, and finally disappeared, as if he was used to such a painful transformation. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AC ± a degree a diaresis T. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2053 Refining Daoyuan Pill. Time flies, it is more than half a year. The cave was also silent for more than half a year, without the slightest sound. On this day, there was a sudden cracking sound from the blood cocoon that wrapped Yang Kai, as if it was the sound of bones exploding, dense and crisp, and accompanied by these sounds, the blood cocoon also slowly cracked a gap. Immediately afterwards, more and more gaps appeared on the blood cocoon, making the whole blood cocoon look like a shattered mirror. Finally, with a bang, the blood cocoon burst open, turned into countless fragments, and splashed all around. In the center, Yang Kaiwei's body was exposed, with a head of black hair fluttering in the air, and on the naked body, the skin was white, tender and delicate, even better than newborns. Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes, the light in his eyes was introverted and his spirit was radiant. Tilting his head, Yang Kai's expression became strange. At this moment, he actually had a different feeling, which was very strange, as if he had been reborn. Bowing his head to check the condition of his body, Yang Kai showed a look of astonishment. These years, he has been running around all year round, exposed to the wind and the sun, and all kinds of hardships have not only created his tenacious character, but also made him a fairly good body, but now, after a pot of wanbao soup, his skin has changed. He was even more tender than a woman, which surprised him a bit. Standing up and trying it out, I seemed to become lighter than before, clenched my fist slightly, and infinite power immediately gushed out from the flesh and blood. He swung his fist at will, and suddenly there was a sound of explosion, and the air was hit with a ripple visible to the naked eye, which quickly spread around. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai looked overjoyed, and immediately knew that his physical body had received a significant improvement. With a move of his mind, Yang Kai looked inside his internal organs, and suddenly found that his internal organs had become like gold carvings, not only covered with a faint golden light, but also gave people an unbreakable sense of impact. I was not like this before. Thinking about it this way, all of this is due to the wanbao soup. That Wanbao medicine soup seems to be able to develop the potential of the warrior's physical body and temper the physical quality of the warrior, supplemented by his already strong body, so that this strength can be improved to a higher level and become more outstanding. It's just that, Yang Kai can clearly feel that in his bones, flesh and blood, there is still a large amount of Wanbao Yaotang's medicinal power that has not been consumed, and is still stored in it, waiting for the passage of time, quietly transforming with his own body. This result made Yang Kai very satisfied, thinking to himself that it was a medicinal soup that had been boiled for 1,000 or 2,000 years, and its effect was much more effective than taking any panacea. With the quality of the current physical body, it is definitely possible to refine the secret treasure of the dragon. Yang Kai thought in this way, and checked his own strength again. This inspection immediately surprised him. He found that all the power in his body had been transformed into source power unconsciously, and there was no trace of the holy energy. Yuanli is a higher level existence than Shengyuan, and it is also the foundation for Daoyuan warriors to communicate with the laws of heaven and earth and mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Without Yuanli, it is impossible for warriors to advance to Daoyuan. Yang Kai's own understanding of the power of law is enough. The reason why he can't be promoted to Daoyuan is because the power in his body has not been completely transformed. Originally in his plan, even if he took Yuan Ning pill uninterruptedly, it would take at least 1 or 2 years to convert all the power into Yuan power, but now this requirement has been fulfilled ahead of schedule. The credit is naturally due to the Wanbao herbal soup. This discovery made Yang Kai unavoidably a little ecstatic, and now he is ready to be promoted to Dao Origin Realm at any time. However, promotion to the Dao Source Realm is an important thing, and this place is not suitable for receiving the baptism of the energy of heaven and earth, so Yang Kai does not intend to promote here, he still needs to find a suitable location. Thinking of this, Yang Kai had the intention to go. Turning his head and looking around, there was nothing worthy of his attention in the cave, but Lu Yan hadn't returned since he rushed into the magma pool before, and he didn't know what good he found underneath. When he came to the magma pool, Yang Kai waited and watched and found that the temperature of the magma pool seemed to drop a lot, as if the heat inside had been sucked away by someone. Yang Kaixin tried to communicate with Lu Yan, but did not get any response. This made Yang Kai not worry but happy, knowing that Lu Yan definitely had his own chance, so he couldn't feel his call. Thinking of this, he simply stopped trying to control Lu Yan, but started looking for an exit. The cave was not big, and there was only one passage connecting it. He quickly found a teleportation circle at the other end of the passage. After activating the formation, he immediately disappeared into the cave. 100 miles away from Yuanding Mountain, in a certain barren ridge, Yang Kai's figure emerged strangely. He released his divine sense at the first time, and after confirming that there was no danger around him, he looked around. After a while, his figure flickered, turned into a streamer, and shot towards the distance. Yang Kai didn't intend to go back to Maple Forest City, the most important thing for him now was to advance to the Dao Origin Realm, so he needed to find a quiet place where no one would be disturbed. A few days later, he landed on a barren mountain, looked around the surrounding environment, nodded slightly, quite satisfied. Although this place is desolate and the aura of heaven and earth is not so strong, it is more spacious and less visited by people. Compared with other warriors, he has more relatives, friends and sect background, and there is no one to guard him when he is promoted, so he can only choose such a place. Insufficiency of aura is not a difficult problem. At that time, you only need to place more source crystals around to replenish the aura that needs to be consumed for promotion. But just in case, he still spent 2 days searching the area thousands of miles away, cut off some monsters that settled here, and then returned. Promoting to a higher level is very important for any martial artist. It is no better than breaking through a small level. Once it fails, it is very likely to damage the foundation of martial arts, making the martial artist unable to recover from a slump. In severe cases, he will even die under the baptism of heaven and earth energy. Naturally, he has to be careful. Afterwards, he released the 2 blood beasts, the demon insect mother and Qingyan Jinglei jackal, and ordered them to guard in different directions. I believe that with the protection of the 2 blood beasts, there should be no major problems. After doing all this, he was able to prepare with peace of mind. He didn't attack the bottleneck of Daoyuan realm at the first time, but Shi Shiren took out the jade slips left by the Mo Yuding and Gongsunmu, and sacrificed the Mo Yuding with all his heart, imprinting his soul inside in the brand of life, while investigating the knowledge about alchemy in the jade slips. A long time ago, Yang Kai tried to use alchemy to stabilize his mind to prepare for the breakthrough. This method has been tried and tested, so this time it is still the same. Time passed slowly. Yang Kai seemed to have completely forgotten the original intention of coming here, and the whole person was completely immersed in the world of absorbing alchemy knowledge. The alchemy information left in the jade slips may be extremely difficult for others to understand, but for Yang Kai, who once triggered the alchemy sound of the Dao Dao and had a glimpse of the truth of the alchemy, it is easy to understand. The names of various prescriptions and medicinal materials are clear within this month. The Mo Yuding finally succeeded in sacrificial refining, becoming Yang Kai's alchemy furnace instead of Zishu Ding. On this day, Yang Kai suddenly put the inked jade cauldron in front of him, and the fire of divine consciousness surged and poured into the cauldron. Suddenly, there was a scorching breath from the cauldron. The next moment, Yang Kai moved his fingers together, and a bunch of high-grade medicinal materials flew out from the space ring, and they were thrown into the inked jade cauldron in an orderly manner. Under the burning of the pure spiritual fire, the ground turned into a liquid medicine and condensed into a mass. After a while, new medicinal materials were thrown in. The fire of the Moyu cauldron fluctuates from time to time, and there is a trace of medicinal fragrance from time to time. Yang Kai's expression was calm, without the slightest nervousness or impatience, and the action of putting in the medicinal materials was also slow, but the control of the fire was at its peak in seconds, and the spirit arrays needed for alchemy were carved by the fire of divine consciousness, disillusioned and disillusioned in the black jade cauldron, and it has a magical effect with the medicinal liquid. 3 hours later, Yang Kai flipped his wrist, and a wooden box appeared on the palm of his hand. Under the surge of source power, the wooden box opened by itself, revealing a longan-sized spiritual fruit inside the wooden box. It is the Daoyuan fruit that the patriarch of the Zhang family gave him back then. In the whole world, there is only one kind of spirit pill that needs to be refined with Daoyuan fruit, and that is the Daoyuan pill that makes all Void King third-layer warriors jealous. If those Void King realm powerhouses knew that Yang Kai was rashly refining Dao origin fruit as a Void King alchemist, they would even have the intention of killing him. Daoyuan pill is not an ordinary panacea. The Daoyuan fruit as the main material is in the entire southern region, and only the Tianwu Holy Land has so few fruit trees, and they are always used by themselves and will not be sold outside. Rare as one can imagine. Among the alchemists who dare to use Daoyuan fruit to refine Daoyuan pill, which one is not Daoyuan level? No king-level alchemist dared to make fun of this kind of spiritual fruit. But Yang Kai did just that. If he succeeds, he will definitely be able to break through the bottleneck of his own alchemist and be promoted to Daoyuan level in one fell swoop. If he fails, the incomparably precious Daoyuan fruit will turn into a ball of coke. After taking out the Daoyuan fruit, Yang Kai's indifferent expression became a little dignified, but without the slightest hesitation, he threw the Daoyuan fruit into the black jade cauldron. Immediately, he closed the cauldron tightly, with a solemn expression, his hands changed like butterflies wearing flowers. With the changes of the spirit art, the medicinal liquid in the Moyu cauldron kept rolling, making a gurgling sound. Spiritual formations that cannot be seen by others are born in the black jade cauldron, shattered, and the cycle continues. On Yang Kai's forehead, a trace of sweat gradually seeped out, as if alchemy was extremely difficult for him this time. This situation lasted for a full 5 hours, and the long-term mental concentration caused Yang Kai to consume a lot of it, and his face turned slightly pale. 5 hours later, he retracted the spell in his hand, took a deep breath, and quickly took out a few recovery pills from the space ring, stuffed them into his mouth and swallowed them. The alchemy furnace is still buzzing, and countless medicinal liquids are fused and transformed in it, and miraculous changes are taking place. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AC plus or minus a degree of diaresis T. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2054 Ghost Hanshin 2. At a certain moment, a strange sound came from inside the black jade cauldron, and along with the sound, a strong medicinal fragrance also permeated the air. This scent floated into Yang Kai's nose and smelled into his body, which made his martial arts bottleneck that had reached a critical point loosen slightly, and the originally calm source power in his body circulated crazily. Yang Kai opened his eyes suddenly, stretched out his hand and patted the inked jade cauldron, and the lid of the cauldron flew up in an instant. Immediately, he quickly displayed the 9 heavens profound alchemy Ju that he had comprehended from the Taoist Danyan, and the seals changed one by one in his hand, and the power was poured into the ink jade cauldron. After a while, the noise inside the cauldron became more and more obvious. Not only that, but there was also the sound of something rolling inside the cauldron. After a while, following the change of Yang Kai's alchemy art, streams of light suddenly shot out from the black jade cauldron. Yang Kai had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He would not hesitate to see this situation. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the streamers of light in the palm of his hand. He didn't have time to look closely at the final result of his alchemy this time. He only knew 6 pills. Putting the 6 newly refined Daoyuan pills into the jade bottle that had been prepared earlier, Yang Kai waved his hand, and a large number of source crystals stored in the space ring flew out, centered on himself. Wrap him up. Some time ago, Yang Kai killed many powerful enemies, and got tens of millions of source crystals from those enemies, but at this moment, for his own promotion, he threw all the tens of millions of source crystals out. After all, the aura of heaven and earth here is not too strong. If you want to guarantee the promotion, you can only use the source crystal. As soon as the source crystal appeared, there was a thunderous sound above Yang Kai's head, and the spiritual energy of the world was suddenly turbulent, and the power of Lao lingered and danced around. After a short while, above Yang Kai's head, a large black cloud appeared, and the cloud slowly rotated, gradually forming the shape of a funnel. There was a burst of flying sand and rocks all around, and the sun and the moon were dark. As if drawn by some mysterious force, it was thrown out by Yang Kai, and the source crystals gathered around it burst open at this moment, accompanied by a burst of crackling sound, turning into a stream of pure energy, diffuse in all directions, gather in the sky. On the top of Yang Kai, the black funnel vortex was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and its momentum was extremely terrifying. The aura of heaven and earth that was originally not too strong in the surrounding areas became extremely rich due to the supplement of a large number of source crystals. The place where Yang Kai was located was soon shrouded in a white mist. The white mist was not a real mist, but heaven and earth, the spectacle formed by the rich aura. Yang Kai didn't seem to be aware of this, still sitting cross-legged on the ground, closing his eyes and concentrating, his expression peaceful. He communicated with his own void mind crystal with his mind and spirit, comprehending the Tao of heaven and martial Tao, and the star source of the dark star in his body seemed to be drawn by something at this moment, and was beating regularly. With the blessing of this star source, Yang Kai could feel it more clearly. The power of the laws of heaven and earth around. The power of many broken laws that he absorbed on the 3rd floor of the 5-color pagoda was sublimated to the fullest at this moment, allowing him to confirm with his own perception and sublimate his realm. Time passed slowly, and the black funnel in the sky became bigger and bigger, almost covering the entire sky. Although Yang Kai deliberately chose the desolate land as the place of promotion, and even spent a few days to wipe out the monsters with a radius of thousands of miles, but there are always some accidents. The noise caused by his promotion this time was so great that people would still be able to see him even if he was thousands of miles away. When the black funnel that covered half of the sky took shape, many warriors in the distance watched this spectacle. Naturally they were curious and rushed to the place where Yang Kai was promoted, wanting to see what happened. After these warriors figured out that someone was going to be promoted to a great realm and was about to receive the baptism of the energy of heaven and earth, most of the warriors stopped and watched from a distance of hundreds of miles. The strength of these fighters is not high. After all, the overall strength of the fighters near Fengalan City is not very good. Most of them are Void King Realm, Void Returning Mirror, and there are even weaker existences. Feeling the rage of the power gathering in the sky that day, how dare they go forward? It was just to see the excitement, gathered together, pointed at Yang Kai's position, and talked about it. Among the crowd, there was a slender young girl in purple, about 20 years old. Her cultivation was only at the 2nd level of returning to the void, and she seemed to be suffering from a chronic illness, but she wore a lot of clothes when it was not cold, and there were several void kings around her. Guarded by the warriors in the realm, the girl stared into the distance with her beautiful eyes for a while, and suddenly coughed a few times. The Void King realms around her all looked at her with concern when they heard the voice, but everyone seemed to be accustomed to this scene, so they didn't panic too much. After the girl calmed down, they all looked away. After a while, a Void King 1st level martial artist flew back from afar, and within a few blinks, he came to the girl. "Miss, I'm back," the warrior said in a deep voice. "Have you found out clearly who is promoting?" The girl gently parted her lips, her voice was very soft. The warrior shook his head and said, Miss Negative entrusted me, the energy of heaven and earth over there is too violent, and that person is at the critical moment of promotion, I dare not get too close, and I didn't see that person clearly. What does it look like? But according to my observation, this person should be breaking through the Tao origin realm. Sure enough, it's breaking through the Taoyuan realm. The purple-clothed girl seemed to have expected it long ago. He doesn't have any relatives or friends, and he doesn't have any sect background, so he's obviously a loner and strong man, but he can be wooed. Hearing this, the Void King realms who followed the purple-clothed girl nodded slightly, expressing their agreement with her point of view. If he had a sect background, if he had relatives and friends, who would be willing to break through the barriers of the great realm in this wilderness? Only that kind of lone ranger would do this when he was forced to do so. That being said, miss, with all due respect, this person may not be able to make a breakthrough. Another middle-aged man with a dignified appearance looked over there with a dignified expression. Why do you say that? The purple-clothed girl turned her eyes to him. The middle-aged man smiled wryly. The movement he caused was too great, and it was not something a warrior at the peak of the Void King realm could bear. To put it bluntly, if he couldn't bear the baptism of the energy of the world, if you have no hope of surviving, you must die. After hearing this, several other Void King realms nodded repeatedly, looking at the huge black funnel in the sky, with a look of fear on their faces. Obviously, if they are allowed to endure such a baptism of energy, it is absolutely impossible to have a chance of success. The girl in purple frowned. So, this person has little hope. The middle-aged man said, of course, this is just my opinion. If he really has a 1 in a million chance to survive this disaster and pass this level, then his future achievements are probably beyond what we can speculate. Quote. The girl in purple nodded when she heard the words, thought for a while, and said, anyway, let's protect him first. If he can be promoted successfully, he will definitely appreciate our favor, and then we can try to win him over. Well, my Qin family is now withered talents, relying on the ancestor alone to support me, and my luck is declining. If I can get this person to help me out, my Qin family can also take a breather. When several Void King realm fighters heard this, they all nodded and said, since the young lady said so, then we should obey orders. Just when this group of people was about to disperse and protect Yongkai, the middle-aged man suddenly frowned, stared in a certain direction, and shouted, no, someone wants to interfere with him. Who is it? The girl in purple was startled when she heard the words, and looked in the direction of the middle-aged man, and she saw a ray of light flying towards Yongkai's promotion place. Not only did they not hide their identities, not even intending to hide their intentions, each of them was aggressive and had a bad breath. And in that ray of light, the figures are outstanding. Roughly counting, there are at least a dozen of them, and the ray of light on the leader is particularly bright. The purple-clothed girl hesitated for a moment, then stomped her feet and said, come with me and see if we can negotiate. After the words fell, she shook her delicate body and flew over there. The middle-aged man turned pale with fright, and hurriedly chased after him with several others. Not far away, among the group of warriors who were rushing towards Yongkai, someone soon discovered the movement of the Qin family, and that person immediately shouted forward, Master, someone is coming towards us. At the very front, a short, obese old man with almost all hair falling out suddenly stopped when he heard the words. His triangular eyes scanned, and soon he fixed on the group of Qin family, snorted coldly said, a few little bastards in the Void King realm dare to spoil the old man's good deeds, they are quite courageous. Master, do you want to take them too? As the speaker spoke, he stretched out his hand and stroked his neck, making a figurative gesture. Hearing this, the old man grinned grimly, and said, let's take a look. Since they dared to come here, they probably rely on something. The old man wants to see what their support is. Good advice, master. The man flattered and slapped him. Not long after, a group of people from the Qin family, led by the girl in purple, came not far from the old man and the others. The purple-clothed girl seemed to have exhausted herself after going through this journey, and coughed violently again, so she couldn't even speak. And the middle-aged man and others who came after her gathered around the girl like stars and moons. After seeing the short, fat old man and the iconic bald head of the other party, the middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. Shouted as if facing a big enemy, Ghost Hand Shintu. Support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users please go to read. Chapter 2055 Eager to Die. As soon as the ghost-handed Shintu yelled out the 4 words, the faces of a group of warriors from the Qin family turned pale. Without any explanation, they all mobilized their strength and were ready to strike at any time. A hint of panic also flashed in the beautiful eyes of the purple-clothed girl. Although she is young, she has extremely profound knowledge and experience. What's more, among the warriors near Fenglan City, there are probably not many people who don't know about Ghost Hand Shentu. This guy is a martial artist at the first level of Daoyuan, but he doesn't know what kind of evil skills he has cultivated. He is extremely vicious and vicious. Those weak existences. For many warriors, the four characters, Ghost Hand Shentu, represent a kind of disaster. Once they meet this person outside, it means that the time of death is not far away. And this guy is not alone, and I don't know where he has recruited a group of powerful subordinates, all of whom have the cultivation base of the Void King realm, and ordinary people are definitely not opponents when they meet them, they can only poke their necks. This person is not only vicious, but also extremely clever. The City Lord's mansion, headed by the City Lord Duan Yuenshen, sent strong men to encircle and track this guy many times, but all failed. The only chance he had was to injure him severely, but let him escape. Since then, the ghost-handed Shentu seems to have been quiet for a while, but those who are well informed know that he is not quiet, but no longer as unscrupulous as before, and now his opponents are all those who have no background. Guys without backers never provoke the families in Fenglan City and the disciples of the surrounding sects. In this way, those powerful families and sects would not bother to pay attention to this person. And it is impossible for the City Lord's mansion to hunt down and kill this person forever, and this person is as cunning as a fox, so he is at ease so far. It was also a coincidence, the place Yang Kai chose for promotion was not far from the gathering point of Shentu and his subordinates. So as soon as there was news, let them check it out. Understand that Yang Kai is a martial artist with no background and no backing, and he is on the threshold of breakthrough. Where will this group of people let go? Naturally, they were dispatched together, ready to do a big job. But here he met a group of people from the Qin family. I heard the middle-aged man's shock. The bald old man sneered. Since you know the old man's name, you dare to come here, you really want to die. As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, the Void King Realm warriors who followed him all looked over with unfriendly expressions, as if they were about to besiege the old man as soon as he gave an order. The middle-aged man's face changed slightly, he swallowed hard, and didn't know how to answer for a while. The girl in purple gasped. Seemingly regaining his strength, he pursed his lips and smiled, and said softly, "It turned out to be the well-known senior Shentu, but this junior offended senior with blind eyes, please don't take offense, senior." Oh, Shentu squinted his triangular eyes, glanced at the girl in purple, and said with a strange smile, "You can still be so calm and composed in front of the old man, the little girl is not timid, which family do you belong to?" Shentu wandered around Fenglan City all year round, so he could tell at a glance that the girl in purple probably had some background. Otherwise, he wouldn't have responded so gracefully. If it wasn't for this reason, why would he be bothering with the purple-clothed girl? With his personality, I'm afraid they would have started killing them long ago. The junior's surname is Qin. The purple-clothed girl replied softly. My surname is Qin. Shentu twitched the corner of his mouth, and said calmly, I heard that in the Qin family in Fenglan City, there is a little girl named Qinyu who suffers from a disease at a young age, but she is extremely clever, even better than that old man Qin Zhaoyang. For this reason, she even went to the depths of the black blood swamp to find a Kaiyang fruit to save her life, so it must be you, right? The purple-clothed girl coughed softly, nodded her head and said, Senior is clear, and this junior is Qin Yu. Only by being sympathetic to the ancestors can I survive until now. He. Shentu laughed strangely, the little girl is really outstanding. She can face the old man without changing her face, no wonder that old man Qin Zhaoyang likes you so much. But, little girl, what do you want to do with the old man? Qin Yudai frowned. After pondering for a moment, he said, since the senior asked, the junior just said it straight, is the senior going to find trouble with that person? Shentu narrowed his eyes, and said indifferently, so what? Qin Yu said, Senior, can you let that person go? Shentu curled his lips and said, give me a reason. That person is a guest official of my Qin family, so. Qin Yu replied in a low voice, so please be merciful, Senior, and my Qin family will definitely come to thank you someday. You're guest of the Qin family? Shentu grinned playfully, and said, little girl, you are smart, but don't treat others as fools. If this person is really a guest of your Qin family, how could he choose to be in such a place? Breakthrough promotion. If it's really your Qin family's guest minister, that old man Qin Chaoyang can't protect him personally. Do you really think the old man is so easy to fool? Qin Yu didn't show the slightest embarrassment when he was told in person, and said with a smile, "Senior's eyes are like a torch, and this little trick of this junior really won't hold you back, but although he is not a guest of my Qin family now, it doesn't mean he won't be in the future. Can you ask Senior to raise your hand?" Before Qin Yu finished speaking, he was interrupted by Shintu raising his hand. Shintu looked at her coldly, with bursts of cold air in his triangular eyes, and said, "Little girl, this time, for the sake of Qin Chaoyang's face, this old man won't care about you like you. If you dare to pester me again, don't blame the old man's subordinates." Ruthless. While speaking, with a flick of his hand, a huge force swept towards Qin Yu. Qin Yu's complexion changed drastically, and he hurriedly backed away. Seeing this, several Void King realms who had been vigilantly gathered around her all rushed forward to block her. With a muffled groan, they backed up a few steps at the same time, and then stabilized themselves. Shape. Looking forward again, Shintu had already quickly flew away with a group of people. The middle-aged man and the others had lingering fears on their faces. They looked back at Qin Yu and said, "Miss, are you all right?" Qin Yu shook his head and said, "Thanks to the guardians, I'm fine, but it's a pity for that person." She looked into the distance with a gloomy expression. The middle-aged man said, "Actually, it's nothing to be sorry about. I'm afraid that person won't be able to survive this baptism of energy from heaven and earth. It doesn't make any difference if he dies a moment earlier or a moment later. Miss has done her best. Next time, don't do it again. We have provoked a guy like Ghost Hand Shintu. This time he let us off for the sake of the ancestor, next time we will not be so lucky." "I see, I'm the one who hurt everyone." Qin Yu nodded slightly. In the distance, Yang Kai seemed unaware of this, still immersed in his own perception of martial arts and heaven, and immersed in breaking through the shackles of Tao origin. Swipe. A series of movements came. Shintu led more than a dozen Void King realm. Chi-Chi appeared beside Yang Kai. Feeling the violent energy fluctuations here, and then looking up at the huge black funnel in the sky, Chang Shintu couldn't help but change his face slightly. He also came from this step, but when he was promoted to Daoyuan, how could there be such a big movement? I'm afraid it's not even 1/10 of the opponents. Even if he is allowed to endure such a baptism of energy from heaven and earth now, he is not very sure that he will be able to survive it safely. "Master, this place is too scary, let's leave quickly." Not far away, a Void King realm warrior was sweating on his forehead, trembling all over, as if he was extremely hard to be suppressed by the power of the world. The expressions of the other people were also not relaxed. As soon as they stepped into this place, they felt that something was wrong. The power of law lingering around was thick and chaotic, making the power movement in their bodies somewhat obscure. Hearing this, Shintu nodded, and said to Yang Kai, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, "Boy, if you want to blame, you can only blame your bad luck. You chose to be promoted in this kind of place. Be careful in your next life." When the words fell, he raised his hand and dropped it abruptly. Seeing his movement, even if there are Void King realm warriors, they will shoot out one after another martial arts rays of light, and bombard Yang Kai in the past. But before these rays of light came into contact with Yang Kai's body, a layer of dazzling light suddenly appeared 3 feet outside his body, and that light was oval in shape, completely covering Yang Kai in it. Boom boom boom. All the attacks landed on the light curtain, sputtering out layers of ripples, but they couldn't damage it at all. Seeing this situation, everyone was taken aback. At this moment, Yang Kai's eyes that had been tightly shut all the time slowly opened, his indifferent eyes swept across everyone, and he said indifferently, "Why are there always people like you who think that you have lived too long and are eager to ask for help? What about death?" All the Void King realms who were targeted by him felt a chill in their hearts for no reason, as if something bad was about to happen. While everyone was in a daze, Yang Kai raised his hand. Accompanied by a chirping sound, one after another moon blades shot out leisurely. "No, run away," someone yelled. But Moonblade's speed was so fast, it didn't wait for these people to react before they had already rushed in front of them. Although some warriors instinctively mobilized their protective power, these protective powers were like paper paste in front of Moonblade, vulnerable to a single blow. As the pitch-black Moonblade slid across, there was a muffled groaning sound from the warrior. There was no blood spatter, but when those warriors looked around, their complexions changed drastically. because crescent-shaped holes appeared in different parts of the body of the companion beside him. The wound was smooth, but the flesh and blood that should have existed did not know where it went. It's like being exiled into the void. Through those weird wounds, the wriggling internal organs came into view. The strong visual conflict caused several warriors to scream in horror. Puff puffa. It wasn't until this moment that there was the sound of blood spurting out, and in an instant, around Yang Kai, several martial artists fell down with disbelief, the blood spurting from the wound mixed with broken internal organs. The scene was extremely bloody. To be continued. Chapter 2056 Demon Insect Playing Double Swords. Shen Tu and the others came aggressively. They thought that Yang Kai would have no power to fight back at the moment of his promotion, but he didn't know that half of his own Void King Realm warriors died when they met him. Such an accident naturally made the rest of them the frightening soul flies away. This is not over yet. Just behind the moon blade, a burst of multicolored rays of light rushed over. Before the attack arrived, the fierce energy had already made the skin of the remaining warriors feel cold, and their heads were covered in cold sweat. Sword Chi. Shen Tu's complexion changed, and he could see at a glance that the multicolored sunlight contained extremely sharp sword Chi, and it was actually full of 5 elements, one of which was quite a few. Echoing each other from a distance, it seems that they can also enhance each other's power. His expression suddenly became solemn, and with a loud shout, his short and fat body suddenly grew bigger, and from that fat body, a dark aura suddenly filled him, enveloping him completely. Immediately, countless black tentacles grew out of his body, and they swayed around, covering all the incoming sword energy under his attack. A series of energy collisions came out, and the tentacles extending from Shen Tu's body were smashed to pieces by countless sword chi. But at the same time, those fierce sword chi were also blocked, and they failed to kill the enemy. The many Void King realms whose lives were saved by him all looked over gratefully, and one of them flattered Shen Tu even though his heart was palpitating. Boy, you dare to fight the old man at the threshold of promotion. I think you are impatient. If that's the case, then take your life. Shen Tu roared fiercely, and suddenly a small ghost-headed shield appeared in his hand. The shield doesn't look big, but the ghost head on it is lifelike, with a blue face and long fangs. It's hideous and terrifying. He urged the source. Poured into the small ghost head shield, the small shield leisurely transformed into a real ghost head, and opened in the wind. It suddenly became the size of a house and rushed straight towards Yang Kai. On the run, Gito opened and closed his mouth, and spewed out clusters of silver will-o'-the-wisps from his mouth, flying out like arrows, looking extremely powerful. Seeing this, Yang Kai couldn't help shrinking his eyes, but he still sat there without moving. The clusters of silver will-o'-the-wisps came to Yang Kai in the blink of an eye, directly bombarded his body, and bombarded the place where he was in chaos. Shen Tu was taken aback. His eyes were filled with astonishment, as if he didn't expect to kill Yang Kai so easily. He knew the power of this secret treasure, and he was already attacking powerful secrets, supplemented by his own cultivation of secret techniques, let alone a Void King realm, that is, a martial artist who is also at the first level of Daoyuan is burned by the ghost fire, and if he does not die, he will lose a layer of flesh and blood. Yang Kai was only at the Void King 3rd layer, and was on the verge of being promoted, so he had endured so many attacks from the will-o'-the-wisps. Where is life alive? Thinking of this, Shen Tu nodded slightly, thinking that he really succeeded. And seeing Yang Kai being swallowed by ghost fire. The remaining few Void King stage even made a series of sneering sounds, as if they were laughing at Yang Kai's overreaching. But their laughter has not stopped. Where Yang Kai was originally, a figure flashed and ghostly reappeared. Who is this figure if it is not Yang Kai? And judging by his expression and state, he was not injured by the ghost fire at all, and he didn't even move. No one knows how he avoided the attacks of those will-o'-the-wisps. Everyone's laughter stopped abruptly. Shen Tu also stared wide-eyed, with an unbelievable expression on his face. At this moment, Yang Kai's left eye suddenly flashed a little golden light. The demon eye of world extermination emerged leisurely, and the golden light seemed to be real. It quickly condensed into the shape of a lotus flower at Yang Kai's left eye. Seeing this lotus flower, Shen Tu suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Instinctively felt that something was wrong, but somehow, he couldn't look away immediately. The lotus flower seemed to have a magical attraction, and it firmly attracted his attention. The lotus trembled slightly, and then disappeared from Yang Kai's left eye. Instead, in Shen Tu's sea of AA consciousness, a budding lotus was slowly blooming, and the source of the bloom was his soul power. Shen Tu let out a scream, and a pain like 1,000 needles pierced his mind. This pain penetrated deep into his soul, making him almost unbearable. The screams came out, startling the remaining Void King realms, and they all looked at Shintu, wanting to see what happened to him. But at this moment, the sound of sneering through the air sounded again, and moon blades that were thicker than before flew out head-on, densely packed, innumerable. With the previous people as a lesson, these people didn't know about the powerful attack of Moonblade, and they immediately dispersed with a series of strange screams. Ning! Yang shouted loudly, the power of the law was ups and downs, with him as the center, the space within a radius of 100 meters seemed to hear some order, surrendered instantly, and became extremely dignified at this moment. The movements of those Void King realms suddenly became slow like a turtle crawling. Puff puffa. The moon blade easily ran over the bodies of those people, splitting them in half. There was a crescent-shaped gap in everyone's body, and the flesh and blood in the gap was exiled into the endless void. The mutilated corpses fell downwards, and everyone's eyes widened, as if they were dying. Is this the law of space? After a successful blow, Yang Kai showed a thoughtful look, completely forgetting that there was still a big enemy to deal with, and the whole person fell into a kind of magical epiphany. Inside, like enlightenment, the true meaning of space law was poured into his mind like an electric current. His body shook, and he was stunned at this moment, his eyes sparkled, and thoughts intertwined in his mind at lightning speed, comprehending the law of space. Cha-cha-cha. A series of spatial cracks formed around him, collapsed, and then re-perfected under the repair of the law of heaven and earth, continued to crack and collapse. Where he is, the space seems to be unstable, and the vision has been distorted. Ah! A shrill scream suddenly came from not far away, and it was Shintu who was tormented by the Lotus secret technique, who was dying, and was relieved. Ghost Hand Shintu deserves to be a strong man in the Tao origin realm, although he was accidentally hit by Yang Kai's Lotus birthing secret technique, and most of his soul power was drained, but he finally woke up forcefully at the last moment, avoiding the tragic death on the spot doom. Even so, he was seriously injured. The power of the soul has been evacuated so much that it has already hurt his own soul. To recover from such an injury, it is not a problem that can be solved by ordinary panacea, unless Shintu finds the top panacea for repairing the soul, or cultivates some. It took dozens or hundreds of years of special cultivation techniques to restore the soul to its original state. He suppressed the pain in his mind, turned his head to look around ferociously, and couldn't help but feel a thump in his heart. He found that the Void King realm warriors he had brought were all dead at this moment, not a single one was left. And the murderer was still sitting cross-legged on the spot peacefully, his eyes were piercing, as if he had fallen into some perception, the space around him was undergoing some miraculous changes, and the cracks in the wandering space were like spirit snakes. It covers a radius of several tens of feet. The power of space. Shintu shrank his eyes and uttered in horror. At this moment, it is undoubtedly the best time for him to launch a sneak attack, because the enemy is already in the process of realizing it, and there is no chance to react. However, Shintu was not sure how to break through that strange space. The cracks in the space were sharper than the best sharp blade in the world, and it was impossible for his body to resist. To be cut into pieces by those countless space cracks. It's actually the power of space. This kid. At this moment, Shintu finally understood what kind of enemy he had provoked. Cold sweat poured down his forehead, he glanced at Yang Kai resentfully, then turned around, and turned towards him. Flying away, wanting to escape from this place. He no longer wants to stay here for a long time, he just wants to escape as far as possible. But before he escaped a distance of 30 feet, crystal snowflakes suddenly floated down from the sky. Those snowflakes were extremely beautiful, pure and flawless. The surrounding temperature dropped suddenly. Shintu shivered for no reason, and a breath of death rushed towards him. After a long battle, Shintu realized that something was wrong. He yelled loudly, and the thick black air gushed out from his body again, wrapping him, resisting the chill that invaded his body. After doing all this, Shintu saw clearly the instigator of all this. It was a huge demon insect with a pure white body, crystal clear, about 2 feet high. Shintu also didn't know when this monster worm appeared in front of his eyes. It seemed as if it had been here all along, but he miraculously failed to notice it before. A dreadful icy aura exudes from the monster worm's body. The strangest thing is that the 2 long swords are actually held on the 2 pincers at the front of the demon worm. The long swords, one blue and one purple, are crossed across in front of him, and they pose in a very strange posture, so that it can see it looks like a top swordsman among human beings, quite a bit of a master's demeanor. What the hell is this? Shintu's eyeballs were almost protruding, and he couldn't help but burst into a loud voice. What he saw and heard today simply surpassed his life experience. First, it's okay to encounter a Void King realm who is proficient in the power of space. Although the power of space is difficult to cultivate, in the star realm, there are still people who can cultivate successfully, but they are not as terrifying as that kid. Now another monster with a powerful aura popped out in front of his eyes. What Shintu couldn't accept the most was that this monster knew how to use a secret treasure, even a treasure in the form of 2 swords. That secret treasure should have the grade of Void King level top rank, right? Shintu was completely shocked. Just when he lost his mind, the monster in front suddenly and slowly turned the 2 long swords on the pliers. Purple and blue lights flickered, the surrounding temperature seemed to become colder, and the snowflakes in the sky were much larger. A white light flashed, and the icy mood suddenly permeated. At this moment, the mother body of the monster worm disappeared in front of Shintu, and appeared directly behind him not far away, still maintaining that strange posture, as if it had never moved. To be continued. Chapter 2057 Breakthrough Dao Source Realm. Shintu stood there in a daze, and grinned, as if he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it. A snowflake fell and landed on top of his head. The next moment, with a light puff sound, Shintu's body suddenly split into 2 with the snowfall point as the center. Bright red blood spattered from the remnant body, the 5 internal organs were scattered, and all fell down. Shintu, the ghost hand who had troubled the surrounding area of Fengalan City for countless years, just died for no apparent reason. And at the next moment, the obtained monster worm mother body also flickered slightly, and disappeared. No one knew where it went or where it was hiding. The snowflakes falling in the sky all melted at this time, and the icy atmosphere that filled the vicinity also disappeared. In the distance, the crowd of onlookers was in an uproar. Everyone stared wide-eyed at what happened in the distance. Although they couldn't see clearly because the distance was too far, and they didn't know exactly what happened, but the death of those 10 or so Void King realm warriors and the fall of Shintu were clearly seen. Such a strong visual impact made them feel like seeing a ghost in daylight. Everyone couldn't believe what they saw, and some even kept rubbing their eyes, as if they wanted to see more clearly. Shintu is dead. It took a long while before someone murmured a question in such an uncertain tone. Shintu is really dead, he was killed by that man. No, Shintu wasn't killed by that person, he was killed by another strong man. That's right, this person seems to have friends guarding him. This strong man's strength is impressive. Fortunately, I didn't hit that person's attention just now, otherwise. Many onlookers secretly rejoiced, as if they had escaped a catastrophe. After realizing that Yongkai is not alone here to advance and break through, but is guarded by a strong man secretly, how can these onlookers dare to stay where they are? Almost as if they had discussed it, Chi-Chi withdrew tens of miles back and waited and watched from a further position, for fear of offending the strong man who was guarding in secret. On the other side, the Qin family was also dumbfounded. When Shintu and the others passed by, they were aggressive. But no one thought of it. The final outcome of those people turned out to be annihilated. Have you seen clearly who killed Shintu in the end? Qin Yu's beautiful eyes glowed strangely, staring at the place where the demon worm's mother disappeared, and asked a little excitedly. Shintu is a Daoyuan first-level powerhouse, an existence that can kill him in a single encounter. At least it is a Daoyuan 2-layer realm. If this person can be drawn into the Qin family, then the strength of the Qin family can instantly equalize the city lord's mansion. In the future, the Qin family will also receive strong protection. It's a pity that the demon worm's mother body moved too quickly and disappeared too quickly. Qin Yu didn't have time to see clearly. Hearing her question, the warriors of the Qin family looked at each other and shook their heads slowly. The middle-aged man said, "Miss, although I didn't see it clearly, that person seems to be using the secret treasure of double swords. Is there any strong man near Fengalan City who uses this kind of secret treasure?" Double swords. Qin Yu showed a pensive look, and shook his head after a while and said, "I have never heard of it. It is extremely difficult to use double swords. If there is any strong man near Fengalan City who is proficient in the art of double swords, I will definitely hear about it. It seems that this person should be a foreigner." After hearing this, several Qin family warriors nodded secretly without doubting him. It's not just that the guardian is powerful, but the one who is at the juncture of promotion is definitely not an ordinary person. Qin Yu pursed her red lips lightly, her beautiful eyes shining brightly towards Yongkai's direction, as if she wanted to see it clearer, but it's a pity that she is surrounded by the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and she can't see Yang Kai's face at all. Hearing this, the middle-aged man nodded and said, "That's right, this person is at the critical moment of promotion, and he can kill more than a dozen Void King realm, which is obviously extraordinary, and, what puzzles me the most is why Shintu suddenly ran away." Qin Yu's expression changed, and he said, "Shintu is a cruel and bloody person. If he is allowed to escape, it means that he has suffered a great loss under that person's hands." "No way, miss, this person is just a third-layer Void King, and he hasn't been promoted to the Daoyuan realm yet. Shintu is a genuine Daoyuan realm." The middle-aged man looked stunned. "Then have you ever seen such a big commotion when the Void King's third-layer realm breaks through the big realm? Look over there, it seems that even the space has collapsed." Qin Yu pointed to the front. The middle-aged man sneered, "I'm only at the third level of the Void King. I haven't seen a scene where someone breaks through the Daoyuan realm. Although I haven't seen it, I feel that such a big scene shouldn't happen." "That's right, the stronger the strength, the bigger the commotion." Qin Yu rolled his eyes and said with a chuckle, "I'm getting more and more interested in this person, if I can recruit him." The middle-aged man looked at Qin Yu, and saw that his young lady looked excited, and knew that she was really thinking about recruiting, so he said immediately, "Then we have to wait until he breaks through." Qin Yu nodded slightly, and said to himself, he should be able to succeed. At this moment, a muffled sound of thunder suddenly rolled in the sky. The sound was extremely loud and deafening, as if it wanted to split the world apart. The next moment, the black funnel that had been spinning in the sky seemed to be attracted by some force, and suddenly struck downwards. And the center of the black funnel pointed to where Yang Kai was located. Boom boom boom. The sky vibrated, the earth buzzed, and the huge black hole was quickly connected to Yang Kai. The unimaginable power of the world, down the funnel, poured into Yang Kai's body crazily. "This is impossible." Seeing this scene, Qin Yu exclaimed softly, and her pretty face suddenly turned pale. The complexions of the Void King realm warriors gathered around her also changed. The middle-aged man even shook his head in disappointment, and said, "This person, how much should he go against the sky, to let the law of heaven hinder him so much? It seems that he will not survive." It is true that when a warrior breaks through the great realm, they will be baptized by the energy of the heaven and earth, but the baptism of each warrior is very regular, allowing the warrior to have breathing time and a chance to recover. No one has ever been promoted to breakthrough at that time. Like Yang Kai, he was directly connected to his body by the energy of heaven and earth. In this way, the funnel-shaped power of heaven and earth will continue to pour into Yang Kai's body, and it is impossible for him to have a chance to breathe. Which Void King 3-layer can withstand such an impact? This is not baptism at all, but destruction. Even if the real source of Tao came here, I'm afraid he would be killed to the brim after just one meeting. The ground seemed to be shaking even more violently. Even though they were far away, all the warriors watching could feel the berserk energy of the heaven and earth this time. It was not something human could resist, and all of them turned pale. A gust of wind whizzed in from a very far away, and in an instant, sand and stones flew in this area of 100 miles, and the sun and the moon were dimmed. Everyone in the Qin family surrounded Qin Yu, and they all mobilized their protective forces to block the oncoming gravel and broken logs. In that distance, mixed with the roar of the raging wind, a man's roar came, like a wounded beast, which made people's hearts startled. The voice is naturally Yang Kai, who is at the center of the energy rage. When the baptism of Tiandi's ability touched his body, Yang Kai realized that this time he was in big trouble. All of his clothes were destroyed in the blink of an eye. Unimaginably huge energy poured into the top of his head, poured into his body from the acupuncture points, and swam into his limbs. With a body as strong as his, he only persisted for less than 10 breaths before his skin ruptured and his meridians swelled and ached, and he couldn't help feeling like he was going to explode and die. The golden blood diffused from his body, making his whole body glow golden in no time. The powerful recovery ability is displayed. The broken skin and flesh are repairing themselves, but often just after repairing, they will break again. Just when he wanted to explode the pure golden blood in his body to maintain his blood and vitality, he suddenly felt a gentle power emerge from his flesh and meridians, and as soon as that power appeared, he quickly joined it. In the process of repairing his body, his fluctuating qi and blood power suddenly increased. The stress is greatly reduced. Yang Kai's face was overjoyed, and he quickly kept a trace of clarity in his mind, while opening his body and mind to accept the berserk energy of the world, while checking the situation of his body. The result was much better than what I had imagined, and all this was due to the gentle power that suddenly emerged. Soon, Yang Kai figured out what this force was. It turned out to be the medicinal power of the pot of wanbao medicine soup that I drank before. After drinking the wanbao herb soup, although he spent more than half a year in seclusion in the cave, absorbed the effects of the medicine with his heart, and made his body undergo a transformation like a reborn body, but the medicinal power contained in the wanbao medicine soup was too huge. It can't be absorbed at all, and the remaining medicinal power is stored in the flesh and blood, meridians and bones. It wasn't until then that it emerged spontaneously and became one of the capitals for Yang Kai's promotion. After Cha Tan understood, Yang felt relieved. And when the medicinal power of Wanbao Yaotang continuously seeped out from the flesh meridians and bones, Yang Kai felt that there was not much pressure, the flesh and blood were no longer painful, the meridians were no longer sore, and the bones no longer made creaking sounds. With the joy in his heart, he mobilized his own strength more attentively to hit the bottleneck of Daoyuan realm. With the passage of time, under the baptism of the energy of the day, Yang Kai's physical body and the power in his body seemed to get a strange sublimation, becoming more powerful and pure. In particular, the source power in his body has been purified a lot at once, which is equivalent to his many years of hard training. This surprise made him ecstatic. Half a day later, a cracking sound came from the depths of the heart, as if some barrier in the body collapsed. Yang Kai suddenly opened his mouth, and let out a long howl. The howling sound was high-pitched, rolling like thunder, and spread directly to the 4 fields. And amidst the howling sound, the bottleneck that troubled his promotion was also suddenly penetrated, allowing Yang Kai's already powerful aura to suddenly rise to another level. Daoyuanjing. Successful breakthrough. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at E°A. Chapter 2058. It was him. Above the barren hills, howling sounds spread all over the field. Everyone who hears this sound can experience a feeling of joy and excitement. The middle-aged man of the Qin family stood there with a dazed expression on his face. He was shocked for a long time before he said with difficulty, he actually succeeded. He couldn't believe his eyes. After all, the noise made by the person who was promoted in front was too great, and it was not something a Void King third-layer warrior could bear. But at this moment, that person really succeeded, successfully breaking through to the level of Daoyuan. The shock the middle-aged man received was even more violent than his own sudden breakthrough to Daoyuan realm. On the side, Qin Yu was also extremely shocked. Although she had a faint feeling that the breakthrough person would not fail easily, when the other party's promotion really went so smoothly, she still had a little difficulty accepting it. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. It seems to penetrate the barrier of space and see the face of the promoted person in the distance. Far away, Yang Kai quickly restrained his joy after being promoted, and continued to accept the baptism of the surging energy of heaven and earth. The baptism ushered in by warriors when they break through the great realm is very rare. It can not only cleanse the physical body and spirit of the warriors, but also help the physical spirit to a higher level, and also contains the charm of heaven and martial arts in that energy. 1 or 2, it will definitely benefit for life. Moreover, what Yang Kai broke through this time was the Tao source realm, and he could still see the power of the law from the baptism. What Yang Kai wants to understand is naturally the law of space. He has mastered it, and what he needs to do now is to comprehend the power of this law more thoroughly. As soon as the howling sound stopped, the energy of heaven and earth continued to pour in downwards crazily, and Yang Kai continued to sit on the spot, his expression calm. The unimaginable power of heaven and earth poured into his body, while stabilizing the foundation of his Daoyuan realm, while tempering his physical body and the source power in his body. With the help of a trace of magic attached to that energy, Yang Kai quickly immersed himself in the comprehension of space law. Time passed slowly. The black funnel in the sky finally disappeared after half a day, and the hazy and heavy sky regained its clarity. But even so, many warriors watching from a distance still couldn't see Yang Kai's face clearly, because the space was extremely distorted within a radius of several thousand feet around Yang Kai's location, as if it was disturbed by some force. Those martial artists only thought that this was a sequela of the previous breakthrough, and they were all speechless. However, after realizing that there was no excitement to watch and no benefits to pick up here, they all dispersed. A group of people from the Qin family stayed behind and continued to watch from a distance. Time passed, and after more than 10 days, Yang Kai, who had been sitting cross-legged on the spot, suddenly opened his eyes intertwined with lightning, as if he had gained a lot. Immediately, his eyes regained their clarity, and he flicked them casually. The chaotic space with a radius of thousands of feet suddenly calmed down under this stroke, and there was no abnormality at all. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai grinned. At the same time, Qin Yu, who had been paying attention to this side from a distance, suddenly looked serious, and when his beautiful eyes closed and opened, those eyes turned purple in an instant, and the purple rime flowed endlessly in the eyes, as if he had cast what secret technique. Those purple eyes added a touch of coquettishness to the slender girl. She looked intently into the distance, and there were two faint purple lights shooting out from her eyes, traveling through the void. In the distance, Yang Kai seemed to have some insight, and turned his head to look in the direction of Qin Yu. The world-exterminating demon eye suddenly appeared in his left eye, and the golden vertical benevolence shot out endless majesty. The gazes of the two sides met in midair. Yang Kai couldn't help but let out a sigh, and instantly dispersed his world-exterminating demon eye. His gaze became peaceful. On the other side, Qin Yu let out a scream, and her tender body uncontrollably stepped back a few steps, her face turning pale leisurely. "Miss." The middle-aged man of the Qin family turned pale with shock, and came to Qin Yu's side in a flash, stretched out his hand to support her, and asked with concern, "What's wrong with you, miss?" He also didn't notice Qin Yu's small movements just now, he only thought that her old illness had relapsed. There was a fine layer of cold sweat on Qin Yu's forehead, and his purple eyes slowly disappeared. Hearing this, he shook his head and said, "It's okay." She continued to stare at the direction Yang Kai was in before, but was shocked to find that there was no one there. Yang Kai didn't know when he disappeared. It turned out to be him. Qin Yu murmured to herself, obviously after she used the secret technique just now, she had seen Yang Kai's face. She immediately remembered that she had met this man on the first floor of the five-color pagoda, and she had told him how to find the entrance to the second floor. "Who?" the middle-aged man asked in astonishment. Qin Yu pursed his lips and smiled, shook his head and said, "Nothing." After a pause, she said again, "Go back." The middle-aged man frowned, vaguely feeling that his young lady's behavior was a little weird, but he didn't want to ask any more questions, so he could only escort Qin Yu towards Fenggalan City with the others. 100 miles away from the place of promotion, Yang Kai's figure appeared out of nowhere in a blur. He stood on the spot and waited quietly for a while, and the two blood beasts, the monster worm mother and the Qingyan Jinglei jackal, chased them from behind. Yang Kai glanced at them, and after putting them away, he determined a direction. Moved, but disappeared in place. Only a faint fluctuation of space power remained in place. 2 days later, Yang Kai came to Yuanding Mountain again. At this moment, Yuanding Mountain has long been in ruins. The high mountain has collapsed, and the chaotic world is craggy, and there are still traces of human beings. This should be the masterpiece of the people in the Raging Fire Palace. Yang Kai didn't care about it, and stood in the sky, silently perceiving for a moment. He could feel that Lu Yan was still in a strange slumber at an unknown depth in the ground, as if he had been absorbing the scorching power contained in the underground magma pool. Compared with Lu Yan at this moment, the aura is undoubtedly much stronger, and there is a faint sign that he is about to break through the source of Tao. Realizing this, Yang Kai looked happy, and immediately withdrew his spiritual sense, so as not to disturb Lu Yan. After looking around for a while, Yang Kai found a quiet place nearby and sat down cross-legged. He wanted to wait here for Lu Yan. After all, Lu Yan had been in the magma pool for a long time, and he might return suddenly at any time. After thinking about it, he sacrificed the mysterious boundary orb, and with a flash of his figure, he entered the mysterious small boundary. As soon as you stepped into mysterious small world, Yang Kai felt something different. This difference is not a change in mysterious Shaoji, but a change in itself. Before, he was not strong enough to touch the power of law, so he couldn't detect it, but now that he has been promoted to Daoyuan, he can mobilize the laws of heaven and earth for his own use. Yang Kai immediately noticed that the power of law in mysterious Shaoji is not perfect. It seems that something is missing. He has sensed it for a long time, but he has no clue, so he can only give up. With a dodge, he came to the side of the Dharma body. Ever since he came to Fenggalan City and taught the heaven-devouring art to the Dharma body, Yang Kai hadn't paid attention to him anymore. Looking at it now, Yang Kai couldn't help but be surprised. Because the original behemoth has been shrunk by dozens of times, the place where the Dharma body is located is full of discarded gravel and dust. Obviously, it is because of the cultivation of the heaven-devouring battle technique, which has significantly tempered his huge body. Result. Although the body has become smaller, it is more solid and solid. The sky-devouring art can devour the aura of all things in the world for his own use, strengthen his own body, and cooperate with the stone puppet's natural supernatural powers, which can be said to complement each other. Today's Dharma body is only a few stories tall, but even so, it is still a big guy. All kinds of rare minerals that Yongkai sent in before were also swallowed up by him, and turned into a powerful part of himself. Because he is not a body of flesh and blood, Yongkai can't feel the power of the body's energy and blood. He doesn't know how much strength he can display, but Yongkai estimates that he will not be too weak. Thinking this way in his heart, Dharma body seemed to be aware of it, and opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his silly face, and he said in a low voice, "Do you want to try?" "Okay." Yongkai tilted his head and waved at Dharma body. The Dharma body smiled strangely, and then slowly got up. As he stood up, a lot of gravel and dust accumulated on his body fell down one after another. Because the Dharma body is the product of Yongkai's distraction poured into the stone puppet's body, Yongkai can clearly understand his thoughts and control his actions. The Dharma body is not only an independent individual, but also a clone of Yongkai. With a thought, Yongkai let the Dharma body play freely. The next moment, the Dharma body took a step forward, and with a loud rumbling sound, he quickly rushed to Yongkai. He suddenly bent down, and with a left uppercut, he swept over on the flat ground. Before the fist arrived, the gust of wind had already blown his face, making Yongkai's robe rattle. Not only that, but the strength of the fist that shot out from the fist plowed the ground into a deep curved ravine. Seeing this situation, Yongkai's eyes shrank, and he was about to use 60% of his strength to raise to the full state at once, and he also threw out a fist and greeted him. Boom-a-a! One big and one small, the two fists touched together, making an earth-shattering sound. A halo of power, centered on the contact point of the two fists, suddenly spread outward, like a round sharp knife, cutting the space in half. The Dharma body grinned, revealing a strange smile. Yongkai's complexion sank, and the next moment he felt an almost invincible force coming from his right side, and with a muffled groan, he was directly sent flying, disappearing in the blink of an eye. In a competition of pure strength, Yongkai was completely defeated. Only then did the Dharma body stand up, put his hand on his forehead, looked at the spot, and whistled frivolously. The figure in front of him flashed, and Yongkai suddenly returned. At this moment, he bared his teeth and shook his right fist. The flesh and blood on the fist was blurred, and even the white bones were exposed. "How?" Dharma body asked he. Asked knowingly. Yongkai couldn't help but rolled his eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2059 Seedlings. The birth of the Dharma body is very coincidental, and his power is also very chance. If the second stone puppet was not born with no intelligence, Yongkai would not have thought of pouring his distraction into it and turning it into his Dharma body. If it wasn't for a chance in the hanging continent, the Dharma body would not have grown so rapidly. Because he had refined an entire floating continent, he was able to grow to such a terrifying state in a short period of time. With that punch, what the Dharma body swung was equal to the power of a continent, the power of a world. Even though Yongkai's physical body is strong and his realm is good, how can he resist the bombardment of a continent with his flesh and blood alone? It is not surprising that he was beaten and even injured because of it. You should find me a stick like Xiao Xiao. Dharma body grinned. If there is an artifact like the shaking pillar in hand, even if the Dharma body does not use other powers, it is enough to defeat 10 sessions with one force. Moreover, what he can do is even better than Xiao Xiao. There is a chance. After Yongkai nodded, his figure suddenly blurred, and he came to the sky of the law body with a shake, and when he turned around, he swept down with a whip leg. On that leg, the source force was violent, and Yongkai obviously showed no mercy. Seeing this, Dharma body didn't panic, just raised one hand horizontally to block the top, while the other big hand passed under the armpit, spread 5 fingers, and grabbed Yongkai. Yongkai shrank his eyes, and shouted in his mouth, "Ning!" After the words fell, accompanied by a buzzing sound, the surrounding space was affected by the power of law, and suddenly became solidified. The movement of the Dharma body was slightly stagnant, the huge body was greatly hindered, and the big hand reaching out to Yongkai was no longer as fast as before. He sank and let out a low growl, "Break!" In the giant-like body, violent vigor burst out in an instant. Click! There was a crisp sound, and the frozen space suddenly became loose. Relying on the tyrannical strength of his body, he abruptly knocked off the suppression of Yang Kai's space law, and continued to grab Yang Kai. How dare Yang Kai go forward? He exerted force under his feet, and there was a crackling sound from the soles of his feet, and his body floated backward like an arrow from the string. Immediately, he opened and closed his hands, and a huge moon blade leisurely formed. Without any scruples, he released it directly. The huge moon blade was as black as ink, like a scimitar, cutting towards the arm of the Dharma body. The Dharma body's eyes froze, his grasp turned into a fist, and he punched out like a tiger. The violent fist punched out, and before the moon blade slashed, it met with it in midair. With a rumbling sound, the moon blade disappeared, leaving no trace of the fist strength. Before Yang Kai came back to his senses, the Dharma body had already stomped his feet, and from the ground, a pillar of soil shot out, and the Dharma body reached out to hold it, and the condensed soil pillar was grabbed by him, and a trace of it flashed across the surface. Lu Guang became hard as iron in an instant, and became a stick of dirt in an instant. Grasping and flicking the Dharma body, the clay stick that was more than 10 feet long pierced the air and attacked Yang Kai, with a sharp explosion sound, as if it wanted to pierce the space. Yang Kai's complexion changed. How could he dare to stay in place? The space power lingered around him, and flickered to the side, making the earth stick hit empty. Hey, the Dharma body seemed to have expected it long ago, but he didn't panic when he saw this situation. He bent down suddenly with a strange laugh, and pressed his 2 giant hands on the ground. The next moment, the ground hummed and trembled. Below Yang Kai, suddenly there are earth dragons wagging their heads and tails. Those earth dragons are lifelike, and they are besieging Yang Kai with their teeth and claws. Roughly counting, there are more than a dozen of them. Much blocked all his escape routes. Dragon transformation. Yang Kai let out a low shout, urging the original power of the Golden Saint Dragon in his body. His right arm suddenly swelled up a circle, the entire arm was covered by a layer of dragon scales transformed from energy, and his right hand became the shape of a dragon's claw. Then he turned around and rushed into the group of earth dragons. Soon, the sound of neighing and knocking came out, and the earth dragons disintegrated and collapsed. In the dusty sky, Yang Kai's figure descended like a god, and shot out from it. On the surface of the body, colorful rays of light bloomed, and streaks of 5-element sword energy crazily shot towards the Dharma body. Seeing this, the Dharma body just pouted and stamped 1 foot, and a wall of earth immediately floated in front of him. The wall of earth was the same as the earth stick before, with a flash of light flashing on the surface, and it became extremely solid. Chi. The sword energy bombarded the earth wall, but it was unable to break through this layer of defense, and was resisted by the coefficient. When the sword energy was exhausted, the Dharma body waved his hand, and the earth wall blocking him collapsed. But before he could make any further moves, Yang Kai on the opposite side suddenly showed a strange smile, and then a golden light bloomed in his left eye. Not good. The Dharma body groaned, and hurriedly looked away, but it was too late. When he saw the golden light, his attention was fixed on it, and he couldn't think about other things at all. His eyes became dull. After a while, the golden light dissipated, and the Dharma body came back to God with a jolt. Yang Kai stood in front of him with a dejected face, staring at each other for a moment with big eyes and small eyes, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. After a long while, the laughter gradually subsided. Don't spread the word about this today, Yang Kai solemnly urged. Dharma body nodded solemnly, with a look of agreement. He fought against himself, tried his best and all his abilities, and in the end he was forced to use the world-exterminating demon eye to gain the upper hand. If this matter spreads out, it will make people laugh out loud. But in this way, Yang Kai has some ability to determine the Dharma body. With my current means, there is no good way to deal with him other than the suppression of spiritual consciousness. It's only natural that Dharmakaya's spiritual consciousness is not as good as his own. He's just a ray of distraction of his own, so how can he compare to his main god? Suppressing him with the soul is tantamount to cheating. It's better to order him to lie there and beat himself up. Yang Kai thought it was embarrassing enough. Is there any extra secret treasure? Dharma body suddenly asked. Yes. Yang Kai nodded, looking at him suspiciously, but with a thought. He understood what the Dharma body wanted the secret treasure to do, and immediately exclaimed in surprise, the heaven-devouring art can even devour the secret treasure. La body said, I'm just guessing, whether it can be tested or not remains to be tested. Yang Kai heard the words, nodded his head, groped for a space ring, found a few secret treasures and threw them to him. These secret treasures belonged to the group of Shinto people before, and the trophies earlier were taken by Yang Kai to the black market in Fenggalan City in exchange for source crystals. After receiving those secret treasures, Dharma Body immediately sat down, held the secret treasures in the palm of his hand, and said in a low voice, "The seeds that were planted seem to have germinated." Yang Kai was taken aback for a moment, and soon he understood what the Dharma Body was referring to, and immediately he looked happy, and disappeared from the spot in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already near the medicine garden. There are only two things surviving in the entire medicine garden. One is the immortal tree that Yang Kai obtained in his hometown Star Field, and the other is naturally the golden and gentry wood species that Yang Kai planted at the corner that day. Yang Kai tried to refine the eternal tree, but he couldn't succeed at all, so he could only transplant it to the medicine garden in mysterious Shaoji. But because of the existence of the tree of immortality, there is a lot of vitality in mysterious Shaoji. Yang Kai had asked Yang Yan how he could refine the tree of immortality and achieve an immortal body. Yang Yan didn't say it clearly, which made him very helpless. And the wood seed came from the beheaded wood mandrill, because this seed was so strange that even Lu Yan couldn't burn it, so it was kept by Yang Kai. It has only been nearly a year now, and this wood species has taken root and sprouted in the medicine garden, and has grown into a seedling about 3 inches high. The seedlings are the same as the seeds. Jin-kun is 2 colors, half of each. It looks very strange, and it has no similarity with the previous wooden mandrill body. I don't know why. Yang Kai stared blankly at the 3-inch high seedlings with a dazed expression. He didn't recognize this kind of thing, and he hadn't even heard of it, but he could feel that there was a very strange power hidden in the seedling. This force is still very small, but if the seedlings can continue to grow, they will definitely become stronger. Don't underestimate these 3-inch seedlings. This is the result of about a year of planting in the medicinal garden in Shaoxuanji. The medicine garden in Shaoxuan realm has heavy soil, 5 earth vein beads, and the vitality brought by the immortal tree. 1 day of planting here is almost equivalent to 100 days in the outside world. In other words, if it is planted elsewhere, even if the wood species can survive, it will take at least 100 years to grow to a height of 3 inches. Thinking about it this way, Yang Kai became more interested in this golden gong seedling. But the harder it is to grow, the higher the value. You can't see that the old tree has survived for endless years, but it is only 3 feet high. After confirming that the wood species had survived, Yang Kai didn't pay any more attention to it. What's the use of this thing? He needs to observe and inquire more in the future. In the following period of time, he sacrificed the secret treasure of the long sword used by Han Leng in the building boat of Feixiang Palace in Shaoxuan realm. The secret treasure of the long sword is Daoyuan level low grade, and it happens that he can also use it. If he increases his strength a little, and supplemented with the indestructible 5-element sword energy, it can also be used as a killer move. As for the building boat, it is naturally a means of transportation. Time flies, more than a month has passed. Yang Kai walked out of the mysterious small boundary again, checked Lu Yan's situation, and found that she was still sleeping underground, and didn't know when she would wake up. Yang Kai frowned, and after thinking for a while, he sacrificed the building boat and flew up, heading towards Fenggalan City. He couldn't be sure when Lu Yan would be able to leave the level, and he didn't need to waste any more time waiting. Anyway, Lu Yan also knew that he was in Fenggalan City, and it was the same to rush to Fenggalan City to join him after leaving the customs. Now he needs to rush back to the cave in Fenggalan City, and prepare to refine the dragon bone sword into his body. This text is provided by Breaking Dawn Update Group at E-Degree Cent A.